like to call the meeting to order of the Board of Leavenworth County Commission. I'd like to invite everyone to stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. For the record, all three commissioners are present. I'd like to start with a moment of silence. I'd like to open up the public comment portion of the meeting. Anyone from the public wishing to speak, please come forward, state your name and address.
Name's Don Starcher, 18549 182nd Street. We were promised quite some time ago that we'd have dust control. Our road is supposed to be charted to be paved, from what I understand. So far, they did come in and put some dust control down. Did not last much over 30 days. Potholes got bad enough, they came in and graded the road. Hasn't had gravel put on the road for a very long extended period of months. There's no gravel been put on since. And no more dust control.
Yeah.
Is this something that is not going to happen now? Why are we?
The road, as far as I know, it's still scheduled to be rebuilt. You got, where are you at on the?
Well, we can't, as you know, we can't add gravel. That'll defeat the purpose of the dust control. So we did go in and grade it because we had complaints about potholes. And we are in the process of acquiring the needed easements to improve the road.
Yeah. Well, dust control is not going to last a whole season with 537 cars a day. There's no way dust control would last the whole season.
Oh, is there some regulation we can't get dust control anymore? Is that out of the question now? The temperature too bad? But
well, we haven't had a measurable rain in probably a month plus, so it's been pretty dry. No, we don't apply dust control this time of year anyway.
So we're just out of luck, is what you're saying?
The board directed us to do the dust control this summer. If the board wants to direct us to do something, that's up to them.
Okay, that's what I'm asking.
Kind of a waste of money then to do it now.
Yeah. When you got 500 cars a day on a gravel road, you're past your low volume road. You know, you got to do something.
I was wondering why is there so much traffic all of a sudden on this road? Does this road isn't 2440 just a little ways over? And
People cut over there to get on it.
And 5 Highway, County Road 5. I thought there was 2 paved roads down in that area. Why are they using a gravel road?
County Road 25, you're talking about 206. County Road 25 would be the nearest.
County Road 25.
And then 166 would be your next.
166th Street.
I guess what my question is
where's it
I
coming
would go
from?
out of the way not to drive on a gravel road.
Well, you're about the only one that would, because there's
Well,
3 subdivisions just south of us on that road.
Yeah.
And if you'd like to come out there and sit on it and look and see what happens down there, that might be a good idea. You might understand what we're looking at and what we're going through.
I guess I don't understand people and why they would want to drive gravel road rather than paved.
I don't know, the concrete trucks, the builders, the equipment trucks, semis, I'd say probably 1/10 of the vehicles up and down that road are commercial vehicles.
Are they building on that road?
No, they're building south of there.
Yeah, there's building going on, but
There's load limits on
I
County
guess-
Road 6. There's no load limit on our road.
I guess
And apparently no speed limit.
I guess I need to come down there and look at it.
Yeah, it's got the traffic, it has for years.
This has been an ongoing thing. This is
But
not
it
something
keeps-
new.
it
We
keeps
went through this
increasing.
discussion earlier this year.
How many miles?
It's 3/4 of a mile,
Okay.
because first quarter mile's already chip sealed. The Developer paid for that back probably '05 maybe, 2005 I think, when that,
I don't know,
the
we-
first quarter mile, and I thought, you know, we were on schedule in '07 to go on the rest of the way. 10 years later, we're still talking about it.
That's right. And, what, 2 or 3 years ago, we were told if we get everybody together, give up your property, sign over right away, we're gonna pave that road. And that didn't happen because the commissioner that was supposed to be taking care of it failed
Have
us.
they all done that?
No, that was the problem
Yeah.
10 years ago, and that's still the problem right now.
Yeah.
but it's-
Still some holdouts. Okay.
So nobody wants to give up to,
Everybody that I know of's already done that.
Well,
That four or five.
and if
Several of
they,
them
if they
that did
don't
it.
give it up, we got a deadline, right? January 1, we'll go to condemnation? Did we decide that? Was that a consensus?
That hasn't been
No,
decided on
no,
that project.
that
We talked about it, but
We
we didn't
talked
decide it, but, I mean, we have to fix this road.
I think we need to have it so that, you know, why should 2 or 3 people hold up a whole road for chip and seal? But somehow we gotta be able to pay for, we're gonna have to go to condemnation. We're
Mhm.
gonna have to pay for that piece of property. So how are we gonna pay for that piece of property?
We're just gonna have to find the funds, because we're out of our low-volume roads.
What
blanket here.
constitutes this? Is this a federal regulation involved in this, state regulation involved in this, or is this
We're
just
just
county
County
regulation?
regulation.
Hmm?
It's
No,
county.
I got a book on it.
Yeah.
It's probably federal highway, isn't it?
Well, it's not.
Low-volume road standards.
Well, this doesn't meet those standards.
No.
The traffic count's too high.
That's what I'm saying. We're past the low-volume road
Right.
standards. We've got to upgrade the road.
The
The
list of
thing I'm
roads,
asking is who sets those standards?
Somebody that doesn't live in Leavenworth
The
County.
federal government sets those
No.
standards?
Wait a minute.
Is
No,
that somebody
that
else we
doesn't
need to
live in
talk to?
Leavenworth County does not know that we are 50% almost untaxable, and we only have a certain amount of money. Now, you know, I just came on here, and years ago, we tried to get projects in a certain order, and they got out of that order. Why? I haven't the slightest idea, because I can't get into other people's minds. But now we've come up with a new process, and, you know, you hate to tell somebody who's interested in their road that you have to live with the process. It's a long process, and it's hard to live with because you've got 500 and some on the count. But there's not a pool over here of money. It's not a pool. So if we're already in the process of doing something and spending money there, we can't say, hey, stop that engineering project and put that money over here. I don't know how else is there some way we can do his road, chip and seal, curb and gutter, ditch it, and, you know,
this is one of the roads that you approved for the list of projects for
Yeah.
this coming year, just a few weeks ago. So
That's right.
this is one of the roads that is on the list. As we move forward, when we get to that point where they're ready to proceed, if they don't have all of the necessary right-of-way easements that they need, then we can use the condemnation. But it is one of the roads that's on the list to improve.
But it's.
It would not make sense at this point, one, to put down dust control because of the time of year, but also the fact that we're going to be spending money on it next year to do the improvements.
and how long is the condemnation?
I'd welcome any one of you to come out and sit on that road from, say, 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning till 8:30 in the morning, or from 3:30, 4 o'clock in the afternoon till 6 o'clock in the evening, and try and pull out of a driveway. Just make an attempt to safely pull out of a driveway on that road.
let's put a little.
Are we gonna wait till somebody gets killed on that road and then we're gonna get something done?
See how we
It
vote?
is on the list of projects for the coming
We
year.
were told dust control be taken care of. We were told gravel be put on that road, and none of it's been done. We were told it was gonna be taken care of years ago, and none of it's been done.
You
Are
know
we
what's
gonna
interesting?
continue operating the way we did 10 years ago?
Well,
Or
let's-
are we gonna upgrade?
Let's talk what is interesting about the process now. Do you want a roundabout? Do you want stop signs? Or do you want stop lights? See, that's where we're going now into other conversations, and that has no interest to your road, but you're talking about you can't get out of your driveway.
Right.
I can't even get out on Eisenhower. Now, that's a hard surface road, curb and guttered and ditched and everything. I can't even get out on Eisenhower, and I know there's a process to go through. We have yours in the process, and we would hope that you would say, fine, we're there, there's nothing we can do about it now. It isn't going to do any good to go out there and spray whatever to have dust control. It isn't going to do any good. How much would that cost? 3/4 mile?
Probably about $5,000.
$5,000. You want to spend $5,000? Is there a motion to that? And put it on there, but in that, I want a contract signed that you won't be back.
Oh, no, I'm not gonna sign that contract.
Yeah,
It's
sir.
just my constitutional right
I
to come back.
think,
Okay.
I think we need to make sure this project stays on track by
Yes.
having a drop dead date.
I
that
think it
the-
is being it stayed on track, it's on track right now.
I've hired a right-of-way agent who's out meeting with the holdouts.
But
I'm
if
supposed
the
to meet
process
with them.
takes.
Oh,
time.
you've already hired someone to acquire the right of way? Oh, I didn't know that.
Supposed to meet with them tomorrow, get an update. We have-
So you are negotiating right of way right now with the holdouts? Oh, okay.
Now, how long will condemnation take?
Well, hopefully we won't have to go with some.
Commissioner, I'll meet with Mr. Amron tomorrow, but absent any unforeseen circumstances, eminent domain can generally be completed within 90 days after initiation.
This meeting's over, and you know,
Commissioner Klemp, excuse me, good morning, members of the commission. By my projection right now, any eminent domain proceedings would not delay the construction of 182nd, presuming that no construction, actual road construction would take place until the construction season begins. Eminent domain may affect the utility relocation, if any, along that road, but it will be initiated as soon as it's practical.
can we chip and seal what is there today without any condemnation, 90 days? Can we just go in there and chip and seal the road as it is today without upgrading to what standards it is that you work by?
My recommendation would be no, you know.
That's your recommendation. Is that because of the standards that the engineering department's going by, or that we out here that pay the taxes?
It's County Route 37. It has a county route number.
It's not a street name,
Yeah.
it's a county route name.
So what does that mean?
Well, it used to be an FAS route, federal aid, but there's no federal aid. So now
Okay.
it's a RAS route, rural aid assistance. There's still no money there. It's all us.
Okay,
But-
I think we're setting our standards too high to satisfy a lot of the taxpayers that live out there. You know, you go out there and you say, well, we gotta have it this wide. Somewhere you say, you know, we're not gonna do that anymore. We're not gonna deal with this condemnation. We're gonna go out there and we're gonna chip and seal what you got there, and if you can't live with that, then you need to move. We cannot constantly, you know, he's in here, and now we're talking minimum of 90 days. I'm gonna say 6 months to 3/4 of a year, and you're gonna be in the same position, hopefully not.
We heard the same story 6 months to a year ago.
Yep, I didn't, thank you very much.
Yes, I understand that. And as far as the traffic, it's not a problem of the cars getting out on the road, it's a matter of the dust.
Oh, I agree.
You cannot see if there is a car coming. Getting out on Eisenhower, you can at least see the cars coming at you.
Yeah.
You cannot see them.
I lived on a county road and I know what you're talking about. And dust just rolls, and it rolls an hour later on one car,
So,
because the wind's just.
okay, I thank you for your time.
All right.
Okay, appreciate it.
So we're moving forward. It's just,
Just takes time.
so are we talking a 35-mile-an-hour design? So to get to Mr. Klimt's standard, it'd be a 20-mile-an-hour design to lower,
Oh, we can put
to
speed-
lower.
We can put speed bumps in.
No, I mean, to design, the design speed on your plan. would-
Speed has nothing to do with life in this country, in this world. Nothing to do. They're not gonna go 25, they're not gonna go 35, they're not gonna go 45, they're gonna go 55, 65, 70, and it doesn't matter.
That's correct.
So,
But I'm just talking about the
Yeah.
design speed that,
well, we gotta
covers
cut out
you.
the hills, cut out the curves, we've gotta do all that.
this road's not that bad,
Yeah, I know it
is, but
didn't. Okay.
anyways. Well, I'm
60.
glad to see that we have somebody negotiating the right-of-way with your holdout, so that should speed the process up. Anyone else from the public wishing to speak? Then we'll close that portion of public comment. Do we have any administrative business this time? Mr. Lawford, Mr. Van Paries?
We do have a couple of items on the agenda today for administrative business. These are items that we've been discussing off and on over the last few months, which is why they fall under administrative business. The first item under administrative business is discussion on the county administrator contract. This was asked on Monday by the commission to bring back forward, so it's back on here. The contract you have in front of you is substantially the same, with just changing the dates that it would go into effect as the last time it came on. This is a one-year contract with a one-year severance that would renew when the new commission will take office in 2019. It would renew, I believe, on the meeting about 2 weeks, their first meeting 2 weeks after they take office. So this would not bind any future commissions. I have reviewed this with the county counselor. Any changes that he had made were included in this. Any changes he had recommended were included in this.
Any comments, Mr. Van Paries?
Commissioners, I term this as a one-to-one contract. It would provide that Mr. Lawfrey provides services to the county as county administrator via the description contained in that agreement through January of 2019. And that's when the contract ends. I don't like to use the word terminated, the contract just ends. Under the terms of the proposed contract, should the commission vote to terminate the contract prior to July or January of 2019, it provides for a one-year severance package to Mr. Lawfrey. So I've termed it as a 1-1. That severance provision does not extend into 2019. Again, the contract ends in 2019. So basically, if this were to be signed today, the county would, you'd have a county administrator through January of 2019. If the commission chose to terminate that contract, or excuse me, agreement before January of 2019, you would owe Mr. Lawfrey a one-year severance package. So that's where we stand.
And this is different than the contract that I currently have, that was approved last year, that allows for it was a 3-year contract, which has a little over 2 years remaining on it. So this removes a year from the contract that I currently have. So I think this meets the intention of the board as we were discussing multi-year contracts.
Commissioners, I'd like to add something too. This contract does require that Mr. Lawfrey actually provide services to the county as county administrator. He cannot abandon the position and still expect to be paid. So I think that's where we are right now. I'm not advocating or for or against this contract. I just want to let you know what the terms of it would provide. But I want to stress again, this isn't some rolling 1 year, 1 year, 1 year. It ends in January of 2019. If the new commission, it may be this commission, it may be a different commission, comes in 2019, they would have the right to negotiate with Mr. Lawfrey or anyone else for services as county administrator. It does not bind future commissioners, and it does provide that Mr. Lawfrey actually provides services to the county. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Mr. Klimt?
Page 5, why isn't your name and address or your address blocked out? Human Resource always did that, blocked out the address. And
Well, I think my name is on my door and on any business card I hand out, and therefore it is public knowledge.
But you're
It's on
on-
every minute, and anybody who knows how to use the internet can find my address, so I have no problem with it.
Okay, I was just sort of curious, I'm going from the back forward. I thought there was maybe some legal thing there that, I wasn't thinking that. What's your salary today?
My salary today is $125,000.
So we now go back to 140,000?
Well, two things. One, in July, I should have received a review and an update, an increase in pay, and I'm also due an increase on January. This addresses both of those. So there's, when the other employees receive a step increase and a COLA in January, I would not receive that
What
because
was
I'm
their,
bound by the contract.
do you know what their step increase was?
With the COLA, it'll be about 3.5% plus the 2% I was to have received in July.
Okay. So we go back to the 140, which, we can do your, what would you call it? Where we're supposed to go over your contract.
review.
Your review, we can do it now if you want. No, I'm kidding. I don't like the part, because somebody's gonna grab this for the future, of talking about adjoining counties. I think that part needs to be removed, residency. I do not like living in Douglas, Wyandotte. We had a school board superintendent of schools that lived, because his wife was a principal, and he lived in Johnson County. He could care less about taxes in Leavenworth County.
I personally don't
Yeah.
mind if you take that and say that I have to live in Leavenworth County. I don't have any issue with that. The county's residency policy allows for any neighboring counties, but I personally don't have any problem. I've lived in Leavenworth County since 2009, and I intend to be here for long after that, after today, so.
I hope so. And the last one is I think the B2, page 2, B1. And that's the lump sum. We're back into that part that I don't care for. I think that is not needed in anybody's contract. I don't know of anybody who's been fired for proper reasons that has needed to have a severance. I don't believe in severances, but, they're the two going to be living to 2019. I won't be here in 2019. Will I be here? Oh, God.
Yes, you will.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. So, those are my questions, and whatever we want to do. I was going to take that off my list of things
So
to
is
do.
that a motion?
No, just some thoughts. Well, let's do a motion and somebody second, and then we can discuss.
And if you'd want to make part of that motion that the residency be changed, so that I'm required to live in Leavenworth County, totally fine with that.
But okay, I'm going to make the motion, and there'll probably be some amendments to it. I move that we do not give the severance package, remove the residency, and keep the pay the same at $125,000 plus any evaluations. No, leave it at 125. We can change that portion during an evaluation. So that's my motion.
Second.
With discussion. When Mr. Lawfrey was hired, that was part of the deal. He would have a review.
Mm-hmm.
And he did not receive that review.
Yep.
He was due a pay increase if he had a favorable review,
Yep.
and I would assume he would have had a favorable review.
We failed,
We did fail.
okay?
All right.
And he failed for not reminding us, Mark.
Well, at the time I did, just so you were not here, but I did.
Oh, okay.
So I think we failed. And I think that he would have, had we done the review, he would have had a favorable review. And he is due for a COLA at the first of the year. When I was invited for his interview, even though I wasn't a commissioner, when I left the meeting, it was a 2-year contract, and I supported that. And then I find out later, after I leave, it gets changed to a 3-year, so. But I did support the 2-year. So. Do you have anything, Mr. Hall?
Well, I was under the assumption that Mark gave up his old contract and this is a new contract. So I'm kind of thinking on Louis' terms that none of that pertains to this contract.
And we can take care of the review.
Right.
Okay,
We need to do that.
we do.
Yep. So if he's not, you know, if we decide.
So
to
if you, if, with your motion for 125, and we'll do a review by the end of the year, or at the first of the year,
No, next week.
next week?
Yeah.
And then so he could get his, okay,
That way, you know, he's not thinking, well, you know, I'm not going to put up with this and I'm going to go somewhere else. I
Okay.
think he's done a good job so far on most areas.
all right, so it's consensus, we will do an evaluation on the county administrator next week?
Well, I guess, yeah.
We can do that on
But we still
consensus.
have a motion and a second.
Right,
Yeah.
but we can go ahead and vote, and then,
We can have a consensus, yeah.
The motion that has been made is actually less favorable than the motion that was made 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, and is less favorable than the contract I'm currently operating under. Just want to point that out.
And less favorable in what way, Mark, please?
Well, your motion does not include a severance.
Yeah, that's true.
The contract that I currently have does. It offers no change to where I'm currently at, other than removing the severance.
what, could you refresh my memory on the first contract you had for 2 years? What kind of severance was that?
I don't recall on that one.
I don't either.
It was,
Because I wasn't involved with signing it, I was just involved in,
I don't remember if it was a 6-month or a
Observing.
9-month. It was 6 months
I
or
think
9
that's,
months.
that's what I was thinking, it was 6 months.
That could very well be.
But like I said, I was just observing.
At the top of your contract, I had written, ask Mark to state the reason. Why are you wanting to go back to your old contract? You stated it the other day, or to me
No, I don't-
personally.
It's not that I want to go back to my old contract. I'm working under a contract. I am not, you're asking me to give up a contract for terms that are significantly less favorable than that contract.
And that's strictly the severance, because we're giving you the same pay. We're going to give you the.
Well, you're giving me the same pay, but you have already missed 6 months ago the first review. And understand that when I came here, I gave up a contract offer that was much more favorable than the one I took, with the understanding that the review at 6 months and the review at the end of the year were going to happen. And so far, I haven't seen that.
What's going to happen next week?
So would that review be ongoing? So this would affect future commissions down the road?
Well, and yes. Yes.
So we really can't do that.
Well, every employee should be entitled to an annual review.
Yeah, and we should be giving him, after this session of 6 months, we ought to be giving him one every year,
Mhm.
because he's the county administrator. He's running the county, so he deserves one every year. And as you said, every employee, by
Should
their
be.
department head, deserves to have a review.
And the other thing that I would bring up is, I think Commissioner Holland has pointed out, when at the time I was hired as the financial administrator, not the county administrator. When Commissioner Graber made the motion to make me county administrator, it was after a long discussion that he and I had. that we agreed that after 90 days of completion, that then there would be an evaluation and that I would be compensated as a county administrator, not a financial administrator. So those are the things that I was attempting to address. Plus the fact that, as I mentioned last week, that I have been notified now that I will be made a part of the lawsuit that you have with the other employees because of the term of my contract. And I'm trying to avoid that too, because I have no interest in being in a lawsuit with my employer.
So we're looking for outside attorney. Somebody.
If this, without a one-year contract, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, we're looking for some kind of, to help you with the legal that could take place. We don't know if it's going to take place.
Right, and that is not, again, not at my doing, that is, I
Yeah,
was notified by the court that I
Yeah.
have to be included in that.
You
so.
can't beat the courts, I'll tell you. They're a lovely group.
And so that's where I'm at. I'm trying to avoid either of us being in that situation.
Well, is any of this that we can't, during the interview, consider also, even though we're doing his contract today, there might be something that we get convinced of or our knowledge improved on that we change. See, I don't know if 140, I got some motions coming up here.
Commissioners, I don't know how do we conduct an interview or an evaluation with Mr. Lawfrey without it being an open meeting?
Well, it's simple, it's an open meeting. Do you have a problem with an open meeting?
Well, I think because Mr. Lawfrey is not an elected official that we should go into executive session to discuss his
Well, you're
contract.
not getting me behind a closed door.
Yeah.
No, that's over
But
with.
That's just.
Yeah.
Or can we,
I mean, now, us three, we have to,
Yep.
Janet has to, she's an elected official. You know, any elected official has to do it in public.
how about if each of us scheduled a time to meet with Mark and not all together? And we
I don't think
could,
that would work either.
No, I think we can be respectful to his position. I don't think that, and,
But if you're discussing the same thing, wouldn't that be considered a coma violation?
It would only be a serial meeting, Commissioner Holland, under comma, if you then shared your, if it were interactive. If each of you met with Mr. Lawfrey in isolation and then met, that would not violate the Kansas Open Meeting Act. I think it might be cleaner to either meet with Mr. Lawfrey and conduct his evaluation in open session, or meet with Mr. Lawfrey and go into executive session to discuss it with him. It's an appropriate executive session. Any decision, though, would need to be made in open session.
what is Mr. Lawford's desire?
I'm fine with meeting one-on-one. I'm fine with meeting as a group in an executive session, but this board has stated previously that we would no longer have executive sessions. So I'm fine with meeting one-on-one for the review process. I think then we would have to come back into this room and share those reviews anyways.
Right.
Because otherwise you wouldn't know, Commissioner Holland, what Commissioner Smith evaluated me at. And if I came in and said, hey, all three of you gave me great evaluations, that's just me saying that. So without the executive session, I don't think there's any way you avoid discussing it.
that's what my question was.
Well, they can go into an executive session. I'm just not going to be there.
So you're saying that my review would be conducted in public, and
Well, no, we could have an executive session with the two of us.
Yep.
And it only takes two to vote yay or nay.
We've had years of burning with executive sessions, and I'm not going there.
I understand.
I've said that, and I'll say
You
it
did.
again. So, your time for you two guys to roll.
Well, we have a motion in a second, but I personally would like to do Mr. Lawford's review and then make the offer on a contract. That's but We have a motion and a second, so I'll call for a vote. Voting,
Aye on the motion.
nay.
Aye.
So, get the review done, and we may do a lot of things in reviewing.
So you voted on the motion, which was to offer me a contract that's with no severance.
Right.
At the current wages that I'm making, no increase, which is less favorable than the contract that you had offered me prior that I had said no to. I
You know
just
what
wanna
we
make
probably
that
did
clear.
wrong is we should have denied the change of contract. Denied this, so you stay where you're at.
Well, I voted no, Mark, because I would like to do the review, then offer the contract.
Well,
But
but we should have denied this contract, and he stays on the old one, rather than
until we do the review?
No, well, yeah, no, the old contract, which I don't have a copy of.
Mhm.
This is what I took home
Mhm.
to review, and we probably were wrong in doing this contract to renew his old contract. We just should have denied changing the contract he has today to his old contract. We should not have probably gone forward and come up with more information. So how do we backtrack, and since we've had
So
a
you want to
vote on it-
rescind,
Yes.
you want to make another motion to rescind the old motion?
I'd say make another motion.
I'll do a motion to rescind the motion that was just passed by the county commission on going on a new, what would it be considered? A modification of his old contract.
Commissioner, it might be cleanest, just to move.
Secondary motion.
Move to, well, the cleanest method might be simply move to rescind the prior motion, and then you can start with a clean slate.
Yeah, there you go. A motion rescind the prior motion.
Second, voting,
Aye.
aye.
Just hang on with the right, Bob. We're,
2-1 again.
okay, yeah, I know it. I move to deny the request to go to the old contract.
Which contract are we talking about now?
We're talking about the one, the county administrator employment that was dated, what's it dated?
Well, I think we all need copies of that contract.
Yeah.
You don't have a copy of this that we're,
Well, I probably do, yes, not.
well, you got it in your folder, Bob.
No, you don't have to make a motion to stay under the contract that I currently have.
Okay, good.
That doesn't change, that's still in effect.
Okay.
So, then we can move on to the Genesis Gym agreement discussion.
Well, we have a motion on the floor.
I'll rescind my motion.
Okay, all right. All right, he rescinded his motion, so
Okay.
we're ready to move on.
The board had asked me, probably a month and a half ago, to review the Genesis gym agreement where the county participates and pays for a portion of the memberships for our employees. And basically, it's a contract where we were paying $1,500 per month, and our employees had the right to go up there and get a reduced rate for their membership. After review, it does not appear that we really have good participation in that. At this time, we have 45 employees taking advantage. That's about 10% of our employees. And the reduction in fees that we're receiving are not that significant compared to what you can get just walking in by yourself.
One thing I wanted to comment on, if I could.
Yes, sir.
I've reviewed these every year when it comes time to pay this in the budget area. And I went out to the VA center and to their rehab, and I asked them, I said, what's it take for a person to go to an exercise class such as Genesis and really do them some good? How many times a week? And they said 5 would be the best. You could 4, and you still would see some increase in. And I thought, well, this would be good for our CARET program. Well, I find out that we really don't need this for the CARET program, and I don't think we need it now. But if you go down through this list, there is I commend the one lady that works at the county attorney's office. She is quite a lady. She goes to the gym over one day every day. There's 30 days in the year. This is the 30th. She's already gone 38 in November. She's really doing, she's staying fit. But you go down through here, oh, this person here, 228 for the total usage to this month. Not doing him any good. You go down here and you'll see 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, 0. I mean, there's so many zeros. I mean, they may be signed up, they may be a member, they may be even paying. But they're not utilizing it. We're wasting county money.
Yeah. One of the other things that has come up over the last month or so we've talked about is, and I think it's really germane at this time of year especially, is the identity theft and consumer fraud. So what I would like to propose to the board is that we, effective January 1, eliminate the Genesis health agreement and instead provide for all of our employees who are on our payroll, those who receive a paycheck from the county, a membership in LifeLock, which is considered one of the premier identity theft protection agencies. They have a corporate sponsorship program that if we do that for all of our employees, it costs the county $6 a month to monitor the credit for any, that would be for any employee again who would have a
$6 per employee.
$6 per employee per month. And it, with LifeLock, it's their middle of their middle tier program. They provide up to $100,000 to restore your any identity theft, and they provide attorneys to help you get that done if anything would happen. And again, because of the conversations we've had in here recently about maybe breach of data and also identity theft of certain employees, I think that it just seemed timely to have the conversation. So what we're paying for the Genesis does not quite cover the full expense, but we do have funds available in our employee benefit account to cover the difference.
How many employees do we have?
We have about 406 full and part-time
So
employees.
400 times 6 is $2,400.
Yeah, the total for the year would be about $29,000.
Okay.
And that would be every employee providing them with a benefit that I think is
What
really.
about the employees that already have LifeLock,
Well,
such as myself?
They would have the opportunity then to drop their personal one and stay on, or they can opt out of this. This is not,
I don't have no $6 a month one. I pay $36
Yeah,
a month.
Yeah.
I've got the top of the line as many times
This-
my identity's
I was
been
wondering where
stolen.
you got the $6.
This, well, this
I don't have that.
benefit, yeah, this benefit, if you went to try to buy this same plan on your own, is about $22 a month. So first of all, by allowing it offered to our employees, it reduces the rate, and then by us making it mandatory, or not mandatory, but providing it as a benefit for all of our employees, it reduces it down to $5.99 a month. At this time, we don't intend to offer, but we have the opportunity then that the employee, for $8.50 of their own money, they could provide this same coverage for their entire family. So that's something that at our next open enrollment we would discuss adding, but right now, currently, we would just be talking about
The employee.
adding all current employees, again, that are on the payroll, would have this benefit, and that would include full and part-time, because those are the employees whose data we have that we want to make sure they're protected.
I'm a little concerned of how much we're getting into personal lives.
Yeah. Well, the employees, while we provide it, they have the opportunity to opt out. So if an employee said, hey, I don't want that coverage, they just check a box, and then they don't get it, and that would reduce the cost of what the county pays. So yes, it is, while it's not mandatory, we are providing it for everybody, it's still a voluntary coverage. If they don't like it, they can opt out.
It's a nice system, I guess. I don't participate. And one of the reasons I'm not on this Facebook, you notice I said this Facebook, I didn't say Facebook. I'm not on any of the Skype, Pripe, or what you want to call any of the things that everybody thinks is great for their operation of life. People having wrecks at intersections because they're, I don't know what they're doing, but they're not driving. I'd like to take everybody out and run them through the life of aviation. You better have your head screwed on, because it is the most severe job there is in the world. You land at the wrong airport, you don't have an alibi. You might as well just head for the parking lot and rent a car, because you're going to be walking home. So we drift along and we want help, I just think this may be going a little bit far into what we offer our employees, because health is going to continue to go up. And that is way more important to me than whether you're protected by your, on your cell phone or what you're using. I'd much rather be concerned, as I say, with health rather than what you're carrying in your pocket, or, well, you don't carry them in your pocket, carry them in your hand. Nobody carries their cell phone in their pocket anymore. Speaking of that, I don't think I shut my cell phone off. Now, somebody calls me, I'll be irritated.
So will I. Well, you're right, Commissioner Klemp, about the health insurance and the health programs, and that health assessment that Jamie Miller had out there, I think was a really good for our employees. I wish we'd have had more people participate in it. I'd like to see that every year, and everybody go through it that's on the county health insurance. And that wasn't cheap, but I think it was well worth every dollar we spent toward it for our employees. So.
Well, it's rather, you know, just physical fitness. Anybody doesn't know physical fitness is hard. I mean, we've knocked off for 30 days playing basketball. And I'll tell you, I've seen my body change, and I'm probably the most mature one here, you know, so I don't use the word oldest. But you don't keep with the body, you're going to have problems. And it's very hard to get that dedication to taking care of your body, whether you're putting stuff inside it, whether you're not, you know, Mother Nature, you're out there putting up hay and you want to be brown so you impress the girls, or ever what the problem is. So I think I would rather concentrate on more so in the future on their health programs rather than their protecting their.
So is it your recommendation to not fund the gym memberships beginning January 1?
That's affirmative.
Or when's our contract? You know?
It's it renews every 30 days. We just have to give them 30
Oh,
days.
it's on a month-to-month?
We just have to give them a 30-day notice.
Okay. So is that your recommendation?
Well, we certainly aren't getting a return on our investment with only 45
Okay.
employees who sometimes participate.
So you're looking for a motion so we could stop at January 1?
Yes.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to stop the gym memberships at Genesis January 1. Voting?
Aye.
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 Anything else?
Was there any interest in going forward with the LifeLock for the employees, or allowing it to be offered?
Not with me.
Not I.
I already got it. But I guess there's two commissioners that don't want it, so it's not worth.
Okay, that's it.
Okay.
There are no presentations I'm aware of.
There's
so
no
it'd be just consent
presentations.
agenda.
How about the consent agenda items? Anybody have any questions on any of that?
Let me do a quick preview here.
All righty, take your time.
Yeah, I have it. First time, somebody put the staple on the wrong side of the checks.
Oh.
That really creates a problem, especially the more mature you get. Let me just take a look at the checks, see if I had any. Checks should be up. Do we have any OCBs?
Well, yeah,
Okay.
we have that, that's under the consent agenda.
Okay, so I move that we approve the consent agenda for November the 30th, 2017.
Second.
Voting?
Aye.
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 Okay. So are we ready to discuss
Could I ask Mark a question?
Yes, sir.
I noticed we paid a dealership for a vehicle there. We were getting quite a bit of business from the Ford dealership. Is there any reason why they,
I can answer that.
Okay.
Right. Ford has not been submitting any bids. The employee that they had there that had worked on the different contracts.
the lady that used to come in
Mhm.
here? Yeah, she was very good.
Excellent. She did take a different job, and they are no longer submitting the bids because they don't have anyone there. I spoke with her, actually, and they had tried to train some employee there also, and so currently they don't have anyone to.
I just wondered, I mean.
No, I mean, I think that's a great question.
It seems like it, all of a sudden, we're getting all these, and then all of a sudden, nothing. It's just like, they don't want to do business with us, or, so I was just kind of curious.
No, I think it's an excellent question, but they have not been submitting any bids.
Okay,
And they have been contacted
okay.
to submit bids.
That's what I wanted to
so
make sure, that they were
absolutely.
being contacted, and they were on the bid process.
Your
Um,
paychecks?
Is that what
It's the holiday schedules for.
Yeah,
Okay.
Each year, the commission has to approve the holiday schedule for the following year. You do see two in front of you. Oh, there's just the one. Okay.
yeah, I was gonna say, I don't know.
I'm sorry, there's just the one. There was two federal holidays added to that schedule. Columbus Day in October and President's Day in February. Back in 2009, those holidays were removed from the holiday schedule. But in looking at it, the courts are closed those days, the post office is closed that day, the banks are closed those days. And for that reason, we decided to add them into possibly our holiday schedule. It makes a difference to several offices, even having the district court closed. It makes a
Right.
tremendous difference with the banks because you cannot make the deposits. The post office, of course, we're not going to receive mail, which, neither here nor there, nor can we deliver mail that day. So that is the reasoning behind adding the days to our schedule.
So, on both dates, the banks and everything's
Yep.
closed. So that impedes us from doing our business here.
Yes.
Also, the court system is closed.
The courts are also closed.
Yeah. I think we should be on the same schedule as the state.
I get that
So-
razzing when I have to come to work and they don't.
You know.
We all get that.
Well, I mean, we
And
should
state
be on the
offices are
same
closed
schedule.
as well. So,
So that was the reason.
so the request is that, just that, basically that you approve the county to follow the federal holiday schedule. and
Good, I can
include
go to lunch and, nah.
the- There you go.
Yeah. Anything on it, Commissioner Clem?
Oh, yes.
And I figured you did.
Yeah. You know how many holidays there are in this country?
A lot.
Now, not everybody observes it. And I did a wonderful thing. They perfected my eyes to a degree, and I left the glasses at home. But, you know, day after Christmas Day, state holiday for Kansas, and some others. Not everybody does them all because, you know, we have Robert E. Lee. Oh, God, Robert E. Lee. Wonderful part of history. We don't have Washington anymore, and he may be removed anyway because he had slaves. I'll be honest with you. My great-great-grandfather had a slave. I used to say I had no ship captains in my family, so why are you blaming me for the problems? But he released his slave, and the name was Jones, and I often wanted to see if I could trace it down, but you know what it'd be like to trace down, because slaves were never released, and he gave her a stipend and gave her a deed. Lived over in Missouri, and I wanted to trace down and see what, you know, see some of my relatives. Who knows, you know, because she probably took the name of my great-grandfather, or great-great-grandfather. But I see days on here, I'll be honest with you, Martin Luther King Day. I think Martin Luther did some good things. There are a lot of black people that don't agree with Lincoln because he didn't go forward after he did the emancipation. He didn't go forward. He just sort of, you know, it just sort of drifted around. Everybody had slaves that had slaves. We're going to have to get rid of Jefferson and his memorial because there's a group of people out here. So it bothers me that if we're going to have Martin Luther King Day, why don't we have a George Washington? I think George was a pretty important guy. Studied him in grade school and junior high, but I guess they don't study him anymore. I don't know. I haven't gone into everybody's teaching apparatus at all the school boards. Lincoln, to me, was an important man. We'll never know how great his importance was because the other side didn't win, which is all good, I guess. So I think there's some days in here. How many veterans we got in here? Anybody not embarrassed to raise their hand? One veteran, 2, 3. Hey, a lady, good. I love lady veterans. Myself, 4. Why the rest of you guys get the Veterans Day off?
To honor veterans.
Thank you. Just to honor.
Thank you for your service.
Well, you're not thanking me. I loved it. That's what young Trump said the other night. Whatever you do, you love doing. Don't do something, and you see that a lot in school teachers, you know. Well, I'm not getting my job, so I'll go be a school teacher. No, you can't do that. That's the most important job there is. Way important, more important than fire, police. Fire never did anything for me. They allowed the Clint factory to burn down, but that was good. That's what they should have done. They didn't do anything for me police protection-wise. I got my own protection. I don't need it. They can't be everywhere at the same time. There's no way. We would need, what, 76,000 police or sheriff deputies in Leavenworth County. And that's to assign 1 per person.
doesn't work that way. So I think there's, you know, and we're trying to do Thanksgiving Day Thursday and Thanksgiving Friday. And it's logical, personally, Thanksgiving Day is Thursday, the day off before, to me, so people can go shopping, and we shut the store down on the holiday. We don't respect holidays anymore. You know, we got Black Friday, and they start that on Black Monday. You know, but it's all folding very rapidly. And the next generation coming along, they're not comprehending that because they want it to fold for some reason. Makes it easier for them. So I think there's some holidays on here, and is it worth? I'm gonna take every day I want off. I'm gonna take off. I don't care. At my maturity, I don't have to care about schedules. But I think that prior to the next one, and that's funny, because I saw a lady move her head when I said the day off before. I'm talking about the day off before and the day after. So you remove another, so you have 3 days. And my fault falls on Thursday. It ought to fall on Friday, and then you can have Thursday off and Friday off, the day before. But I think there's just,
And were you leaning toward honoring President's Day?
yeah, I think it ought to be honored. I mean,
I kind of would like to ask a question about, I'm not opposed to having some holidays off. I like to, Veterans Day. But what's this cost the county when we take a holiday?
I don't know the answer to that. It's, you know, it's,
I mean, it's got to be a significant amount.
it's gonna cost a day's payroll,
And
you know,
who's paying for that? The county taxpayers.
Taxpayers.
you worded that wrong. You said, you should have said, I don't know, sir, but I'll find out. Oh, that's military term, excuse me.
I usually do try to find
Yeah.
the answer, you know, to that question. And there again, this is just a motion that we have to have each year by the board. We certainly do not have to add the 2 additional days. The reasoning behind it, I stated.
There's 11 federal holidays, in case you wanted to know.
Mm-hmm. In the county, you take 9.
Yeah. So, I just wanted to give my dissertation. Is it a big deal? It will be a big deal in 10, 20, 30 years. It'd be a very big deal if we keep throwing out. I keep waiting. I didn't see Oprah on there. No, she's not on there as a federal holiday. Well, Martha Stewart was the first billionaire, so maybe she ought to be on there rather than Oprah.
Well, there again, the county doesn't decide the federal holidays. They're
That's true.
You know,
Right.
decided at the federal level. We would just like to follow the federal holidays.
And does the state of Kansas follow the federal? So I would say it would be more appropriate if the Leavenworth County followed the state of Kansas than the state of Kansas follows the federal, so.
So, somebody do a motion, you want to accept it, or you want to change it? I'm not going to do a motion to change it.
Motion to
So the
adopt the
motion,
holiday
motion might
schedule
be
for
to.
2018.
Yeah, the motion might be to adopt this, okay, the one that's presented. Okay.
We have a motion to adopt the holiday schedule presented for 2018. Second. Voting.
Are we wanting unanimous here so we all have a great feeling?
No,
Can I vote no then?
you can vote however you want, Mr.
God.
Klemp.
I see boards that just vote unanimously for the feeling. I'm voting for 30 years from now, so I'm going to vote nay.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Paycheck. contract.
Yep.
And I do have some things when we're all done here.
We'll be a while because we got planning and zoning here.
Well, that'd be easy.
I hope so. I'll take a bet on that, though.
No.
The county clerk and myself have been evaluating opportunities for human resources support staff to help with the transition that we're currently under, and then also with just as a reference point going forward. We've interviewed Paychecks, which has a local office in Overland Park. We've met with 3 or 4 of their staff members in 2 different meetings to go over what the services they provide. And they've provided us with a proposal that it would include on-site service if needed. They will come in and do a complete evaluation of our current practices, provide any recommendations. This is just a month-to-month agreement. This is not a long-term contract. If we utilize their services for 2 months and feel that we don't need it anymore, we just notify them we no longer want them. But there is a cost to the county, obviously, so we're asking the board to consider authorizing the clerk and myself to work with Paychecks. Could be for a 12-month period, and it could be for 2 months. I don't know, but that's why we're bringing it forward. If it was just for a month, we wouldn't need the approval. We would already have that authorization, but want to make sure if it goes longer than 3 or 4 months that the board's aware.
So the fee for the month is $5,100?
There's a $5,100 for the first month to establish it, to get it set up, and then it's about $5,000 a month going forward.
Do we have something in place that does this right now?
We do not.
We do not. So we could use this as an evaluation.
Yes.
And you'll come back, I'd like to,
Back in 30 days, we had the HR staff meet with us. It was not just Mark and I meeting with them to go over services that Paychecks would supply the county. I think it is a necessary agreement that we have just due to legal questions that may arise. So it would be my recommendation as the county clerk and being in charge of HR currently, that we enter into this agreement with Paychecks. We can come back to you in 30 days with a review, if you would like, letting you know some of the different services that they have helped us with over that period of time.
I move to approve with what you just said, that they've come back in 30 days, presenting the good and the bad and the, I guess that's good, bad, and
Okay.
ugly, wasn't it, the movie?
So it'd be to enter into a month-to-month contract with Paychecks.
Yes.
So this is just to help the staff.
Well, to help the entire county. I mean, I think it's a very good resource for
Well,
the
to
department
help the staff,
heads.
that would be helping the county.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Okay.
Voting,
Aye.
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 30 days. Yea and nay. What is improved?
Thank you. You ready for planning and zoning?
Are we ever ready for planning and zoning?
I'm not gonna answer that. Can everybody hear out there? The sound seem to be getting better.
Goodbye, Mr. Herring. Nice to see you, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. This is case number DEV-17-093094. It's a preliminary and final plat for Sarles Addition. This came before you in November, I believe. It had been through the Planning Commission, and you remanded it back to the Planning Commission. I'm sorry, you saw it in October, and it went back to the November Planning Commission, excuse me. The Planning Commission did decide to separate the two issues between the plat and the need for a special use permit. They have recommended approval subject to the standard conditions with the plat, not including the requirement of a special use permit. I believe that Mr.
Is this an executive session?
Right, they separated, so yes, they separated it. They did not include, originally there was a condition that they had added that they needed to get a special use permit. They have removed that condition from it.
They still need to get a special use
Right.
permit, but it's separated from this plat.
Correct.
So we're here to approve a plat.
Yeah,
The
I was
plat.
gonna say, we're not here to approve both, we're just here to approve the plat.
The plat, yes.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Do we need any other discussion on it?
It doesn't require a
All
public
right.
hearing, no.
We've got a motion and a second to approve the plat for Sarles addition. Voting?
Aye.
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 Okay.
This is case number DEV 17-120. This is a replat of Lot 1 from Crossing Deer Estates. Crossing Deer Estates has been before the board a number of times in the last year and a half or so. The most recent time it was before the board to approve it, it came in as a 3-lot subdivision. It had originally come in as an 8-lot subdivision. There were many changes made to it. The developer does not want to improve the 174th Street. Public Works Director David Luchin has indicated that it is county policy that 4 or more lots require improvement. That's why it went down to 3. When it was approved by the Board of County Commissioners earlier this year, there was a condition that stated if Lot 1 were to be further subdivided, that the entire length of Lot 1 would need to be improved to county standards. Mr. Luchin, the Public Works Director, is of course standing behind that recommendation that was, or that requirement that was made by the board. Mr. Brewer is the applicant. He's here, will answer any questions that you may have. The Planning Commission voted to approve this case subject to the conditions, one of those being the improvement of 174th Street.
Okay, but we're not required to have a public hearing.
You are not required to have a public hearing. no.
And Mr. Lugent still stands by if Lot 1 is done, the whole road needs to be done. And,
The distance across Lot 1.
Have
di-
we,
yeah, distance across Lot 1.
was this up before?
Yes.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I think
No, we've heard this before.
In
and-
planning and zoning, planning commission voted 7-0.
Yes.
So, my understanding is he had 4 lots he wanted to do, and he broke it down to 3 lots.
It originally came as an 8-lot subdivision, and then he backed it down. It ultimately came through as a 3-lot subdivision. Lot 1 was a 15-acre parcel, it was a very large parcel. And the requirement from the board was that if that Lot 1 were to be further subdivided, which is what is occurring now, that the entire length of existing Lot 1 be improved to county standards.
So is this a way to circumvent the development of the road by only going 3 lots?
This is
Earlier.
the fourth lot.
This will be the
Right.
fourth lot.
Fourth lot.
This is just,
Oh, 6 lots.
Is that correct, Crystal? This will make
Yeah,
6 total?
it'll technically make 7 because there was that track split that was done previously. So yes, this original parcel will now have been divided into 7 lots.
But as I've always said, we have a planning commission. They take a vote. I read it. I look at their vote, and the public works officer has stated what he feels should be done, and that's part of this 7-0. So, you know, we can talk about it, because it's gonna come back
Right.
in a different version, which is all
I
right.
think Mr. Brewer brought this back because we had accepted 174th Street as a hard surface road.
Right.
Without upgrading it to the current standards. It was paid for by a resident to have a
Right.
hard surface dust patch. His lot would be on the hard surface part of it,
Right.
so. And I think that's what.
He
what
paid
is-
for it. Who did it?
It was the guy down the road. Let me think of his name.
So the county didn't do it?
The county did it, but was.
Oh, that's what I was looking for. The county did
The
it. Okay.
one resident paid for almost a half a mile, I think. It
Yeah,
was
I-
almost a half a mile.
I was just looking at my,
Yeah.
I was gonna take over 3/4 of a mile, and they wouldn't let me do it because it didn't have insurance. So, but the county did it, so I can understand that.
Mhm. It
So
was
the-
paid for under the dust control program. It was kind of a cost share.
Okay.
Because there was more base rock added than a regular dust, It
Well, I'm
was-
gonna do a motion to accept the Planning's Commission's recommendation, and public hearing not required. If there's a second, we can discuss it, and you can invite people to talk about it if you want.
Second for discussion.
Second for discussion.
Okay.
Anyone here wanting to talk about this?
Good morning. My name is Mark Brewer. I live at 17607 198th Street. I think staff gave a decent background on this project. The reason we're in front of you again is because several things have changed since we last had this application in front of the board. If you recall, as staff explained, there were two issues that were discussed at length when we brought this project before, and that was the condition of 174th Street and access to Evans Road. So before we made our application, the county's history of what was allowed was direct access to Evans Road. There were several projects, Any Collector Road, for instance, that were allowed direct access to Evans Road. So what we use when we look to develop property is what's the chain of events that happened prior to what's been approved by county staff. And so we saw access being allowed on Evans Road at approximately 200-foot centers on lot access. And then we look, during that application process, the county engineer got an access management policy passed that said there's only one access allowed per quarter mile. I believe this is under discussion later on the agenda, but so requested that we bring our access onto 174th. That threw us past the lot count, the unwritten policy of no more than 3 lots on an unimproved road. So by forcing us onto 174th Street, that changed our lot count onto what was allowed on an unimproved road. Then we got into the discussion about 174th Street and the condition of 174th Street. As Doug mentioned, this is a chip seal dust patch. So a chip seal dust patch is you take an existing county gravel road, you lay down 6 inches of AB3 in a double chip seal coat. County standards for an improved road are 8 inches of AB3 along with required ditch section improvements and a double chip seal. So it's not like we've just got, the person who paid for this just went out there and put down a double chip seal. There was improvements made to the road. Since our last application and when we were required to improve the road, the county, as the chairperson mentioned, has accepted that into the road inventory as an improved road. Meaning from here on out, every other year when the county goes through their chip seal overlay project, that road will be overlaid at the county's expense. So to back up a little bit, I mean, Commissioner Kemp, you said you always go with what the Planning Commission recommends. Well, our previous application, when we begrudgingly agreed to improve the frontage in front of County Road 1, there was no stipulation. The Planning Commission overrode the stipulation by Public Works to improve the road. And then, as we proceeded on from there, the county commissioners, Public Works added that back in. So we kind of had to fight 2 battles there. So that's why we begrudgingly agreed to it, because we wanted to move forward with something on the project. So other issues with the access management policy that happened at the Planning Commission, or the last Planning Commission meeting when we had this on the agenda, was that they overturned that resolution for the access management policy. So the same policy that's been required to force us onto the side road has no support essentially from the planning commission. There's not really, they can't really reject the resolution because that's this board's capacity, but they voted, I guess, of no support. I mean, that'll come up later in the agenda, but it was overturned for lack of a better term. So we're willing to do whatever it takes to get these 3 lots. If it means access onto Evans Road or 174th. Another issue that we had was since our application, a half mile down the road on 178th Street with West Farm, here's 178th Street, here's Evans Road. Again, we were not allowed access to Evans Road and forced onto the side road, which threw us into the lot count that exceeded what would be required to approve the road. Lot 1 on this subdivision was allowed direct access to Evans Road. So we want to understand why that was allowed. I mean, there could be arguments about topography or drainage, but if you look just directly north of the road, that was the same problem up here, north of Evans Road, and access is off of the side road. So, other arguments, Evans Road in this area, the drainage pipe, the shoulders, they don't meet county requirements for an arterial road. But this developer was not required to make any improvements to Evans Road. And
You mean 178th?
Evans Road.
That's it.
Yeah, but
And
I
yet
think
they
the
were
plat
not
you were
required.
talking about would require an improvement on
It
178.
would, but this is already on the PRP.
It's on, it
program.
is, but it's not ahead of 182nd Street.
Oh, good.
I want to make that clear.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I like humor, that's good.
Yeah.
So I guess my point is, several things have happened prior to our application that allowed access to Evans Road, that there's also been other applications that have 5 lots on a gravel road. That have happened prior to our application, that was one set of rules, a different set of rules was applied to our application, and then after our application, we were back to the same set of rules. So, and throw on top of that, that the county has accepted 174th Street as an improved road to continue to maintain it. If you require that we improve 174th Street and continue with that stipulation, the county is responsible for all utility relocations. There's an ATT switch box that's about 7 feet off the side of the road that will require relocation to meet the county's design standards. We've got previous quotes of that's a 6-figure amount to relocate that box. There's also a water line to relocate, and I think our previous quote on that was along the whole frontage, but so this would only be about half that, so that may be $40,000 or $50,000 to replace the water line. And if we improve the road, the county does not receive the road impact fee, which is $5,000, approximately $5,000 a lot. So the county loses that income. Or we could allow these lots to front on 174th Street without making additional improvements to 174th. The county gets the $15,000, and we've had a lot of demand for the lots. They could get the tax base next year. So that's kind of where we're at, and you know, if we're required to approve 174th to completely throw away the 6 inches of AB3 that's already been paid for, and the 2 or 3 coats of chip seal that's already been put down, to completely throw that away, and just to put it basically right back on the same alignment, because there's not significant improvements need to be made to the vertical alignment of the road, seems like a complete waste of money on our behalf and on the county's behalf. Thank you.
Thank you. I did drive that road last night. I was actually going to drive 182nd, but it looked kind of dusty, and I washed the car earlier. So I drove 174th, and then I cut over to Bonner on Kansas Avenue. We have a nightmare on Kansas Avenue from County Road 2 over to 142nd Street. At night, it's horrible. I mean, what we did is, like you said, we went in there and just chip sealed what was there, existing right-of-way. But 174th was regraded, all the ditches were cleaned out, all new culverts and all that when he did it. It's a pretty, what I think did we get 26 feet out of that, I think?
I have some pictures that make.
It's 20, it's a good road, it really is, and I'm, I understand where the engineer staff is coming from about road standards and that, but but we're still allowing building permits out on gravel roads, if you got a 2-lot subdivision or whatever, and I'd rather see a building permit issued on a hard surface road.
And does it meet the standards that?
No, it does not meet this, it does not meet current standards on that.
Well, I'd like to hear David.
Yeah, no, and like I said, I understand where the engineer's coming from. But I bet if somebody came in with a building permit for Kansas Avenue, we would go ahead and issue it.
Probably.
And it's way worse road. And it's hard.
Yeah, I'll simplify the process. Mr. Brewer's trying to complicate things. The plat that was approved earlier this year had the stipulation that if Lot 1 was subdivided, further subdivided,
Right.
the
That's what I was referencing.
road has to be brought to county standard.
That's right.
That's what this all boils down to. The stipulation was on the plat that the board approved to improve that stretch of 174th to current county standard. That's what this all boils down to.
I know, that, because I remember the case.
Right.
It come in front of me.
Well, see, the kicker to me is what is now county standard, Put the name out there, what's it called?
ASHTO standards,
ASHTO standards. Well, where did that originate at?
federal level.
Well, I don't know about that. A lot of it originates in California. California standards are, federal level. I get very concerned about our standards. The standards can be improved at a later time. If it's just the road itself and it can be improved, we're not using Leavenworth County standards. We're using what we have adopted as somebody else's standards, and pretty soon that road will be curbed and guttered and sewer and everything else. Storm sewer. I think we've gotten too severe with our standards, and it's cost us a lot of money and a lot of time and a lot of irritation, and County Road 182 just let, because how long has that been going on? A long time.
2007.
2007.
That delay was not caused by the county. I just want to be clear on 182nd.
Well, I understand
was
that.
Unwilling property owners.
I understand that. And so how do we get by that? Well, we chip and seal the road where it is. To come up with all this, the federal government says the elevation cannot be this. The, what do you call it, cannot be the curvature of the road.
Vertical curves.
Which you want to call them. But let's take 20th Street. One of the reasons truck traffic was not allowed because of the standard of the hill. Average person doesn't know that. I don't know, did they pour the concrete right? Thicker where the trucks are going to drive, they don't care, they're going to drive anywhere anyway. So we come up with standards that penalizes the system. We pay the money and nobody looks at, it's just money. So I think our standards have been set too high, and if we just go and chip and seal that road like it is, we don't have to worry about it.
I'll offer this, if I may, and we've offered this before. We don't want to throw away what good money is already put there. And we don't see the need for the county to waste money relocating utilities. So in lieu of completely reconstructing that road, essentially on the same alignment, we would offer to pay for another chip seal of that road to be done next year, whenever the county chooses, of that 1,000 feet. So that you can, maybe as an offer of us coming to the table and trying to meet somewhere in the middle as a compromise.
So,
Any more thoughts, commissioners?
planning and zoning got any more they want to add? To prolong the,
This is entirely up to the county engineer. It's their standards. Plus, there is a motion on the floor in a second. So if we decide to change it, then we have to change the motion.
Mr. Luchin, I know earlier in this year, we discussed that low-volume roads would have different standards when we go in and do the chip seal on them, that rather than an attempt to save money and also get more roads taken care of.
Right.
That we were going to use I don't remember the term that Sarah had used that day, but it was a different set of standards. We had the low volume, and they would be able to utilize this other. Are we applying that to this road? Does it qualify for low volume?
Right now, we apply that to PRP roads. We did do a traffic count recently. We could apply it to this road if the traffic volume is low enough.
There's
So-
some funding for PRP roads.
Well, not PRP, but the standards that we were going to use on those PRP roads was a lesser standard.
Right.
So that we could get them done, and I think that's kind of what Commissioner Klemp is going down that line. There are still some design standards that have to be taken into consideration. And these are still nationally accepted standards. It's
Yes.
just a different set. And I think maybe
They could-
that's the approach.
They
that-
could design it to those standards, yes.
So have you reviewed that, Mr. Brewer? Are you familiar with
That's
that?
never been offered before.
Okay.
So we've always been held to the 26-foot wide with, I think, 4-foot shoulders and 4-to-1 ditch sections, and so a lot wider corridor.
Than what's currently there.
Right, so with, I'm not
And that
re-
particular lot connects directly to Evans Road, is that correct?
Correct.
Which is, I mean, that's one of the reasons why maybe those standards are applied. But I do think it might be worthwhile to evaluate the standards that we're proposing for PRP roads, because this one would, if Mr. Brewer wasn't in here today and the neighbors came in and approached us with a PRP project, you're saying it would meet those standards.
Yes, it would.
So I would expect that maybe holding him to those standards would be acceptable.
Exactly. It's the same-
Versus the AASHTO standards that we were discussing earlier.
The same thing, the way 178th Street's getting improved, those houses are allowed to access the same quality of road that we're talking about.
Well, we have a motion and a second. Does anybody want to withdraw their motion and do another motion? Your motion was to
accept.
the recommendation
Oh,
of the planning commission. Is that correct?
that's true.
Which included the current standards.
Which
Included that the road be improved to the current AASHTO standards, which
The current county standards.
counties, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, county standards, yes.
I'll remove my motion if,
Well, before
You could-
we go that route.
You could modify that to.
Could we just say that the county standards for this road would be the PRP
low
standards?
volume.
Okay.
So therefore, your motion would be valid and what was
valid,
approved
and
by
I'll
the-
just add that to
Because it
it.
just said county standards, and we're saying that the county standards would be the PRP standards in this case because it's a low-volume road. Okay.
So the motion should have an amendment
Would you
to,
be all right with that, David?
Yes, I would.
Yeah, so the motion is fine. The motion you have on the table is fine.
Just so I understand what we may or may not be agreeing, David, what is your opinion for what that cross-section needs to be for 174th Street?
The cross-section, actually, I would have to pull the PRP, I believe it's 22 foot wide for the driving surface.
So I think we
You're
have
past
24,
that.
26 right now at
You're
least.
26.
And so
I'm
we
pretty
just do a
sure we got
review of the
26
vertical alignment to
already.
make sure there's, I don't think
The
that
the main issues we're gonna have with it is getting proper ditches and
Right.
getting a clear zone established.
so we don't have to do a amendment to the motion to the
That-
PRP standards?
That's correct. It would be, because those are the county standards on a low-volume road.
Okay.
Are you good with that amendment with your second?
Well, there's, again, no amendment. There's no amendment. The motion was, and what the planning and zoning approved was county standards. The county standards on this road would be the same as the PRP standards because it's a low-volume road.
I understand what you're saying, is that you're gonna put it under PRP standards, so there wouldn't be nothing done, would we still get the roof and TIF?
We would still get the roof and tip.
Well, I believe there will have to be something done. I mean, the ditches are gonna have to be
Correct.
cleared. There's gonna be some things, and there would have to be probably another layer of chip seal put down.
Yeah, if the
Not
developer
sure.
makes improvements, then the RIF gets waived. The TIF still applies, the RIF gets waived, if the developer makes improvements to the existing road.
Okay.
Which if he's only required to chip seal 1,000 feet, we'd be better off to take the roof.
And pay $12,000.
Well, the RIF isn't designated for the road in front of them.
I know, but it's
It's-
any money
it's
that
for
goes
that
in the road,
district.
in the coffers to improve
It's for that
secondary
district,
roads.
isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's for
It'd
that
be for
district, so it
Fairmount
couldn't be used
Township.
Anywhere in that district.
That's why I offered the overlay, the chip seal overlay, roughly $12 a foot for 1,000 feet, and you keep the road impact fee. That's some net $27,000, or otherwise, we keep the $15,000 and pay for some.
I'd rather we keep the $15,000.
I would too.
myself. But, like I said, it could be, money could be used on projects in the township. And we have plenty of roads in that township that need to be hard surface. So we have a motion, and you're still good with your second?
I guess.
Voting.
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you.
You have Public Works Access Management.
We still got another one.
Arbor Ridge.
Arbor
Got one
Ridge.
plat left to go.
Where did it go?
Case number DEV 17-121 and 122. There is no public hearing required. This is a two-lot subdivision. The Planning Commission recommended to approve it 7-0, subject to conditions. There is nothing controversial about this subdivision plat.
I'm going to move to approve.
Second.
Voting.
Aye.
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 All right.
Now, Public
Do you
Works.
want to move this around a little bit and get these special use permits out of the way? Because I think our access management's going to take a little while to visit with. And I know we've got people here that have taken off time from work to be here.
I think that'd be fine to move it to the end and let the other three go forward first. Move this access management to the last item.
All right, thank you.
All right. Commissioners, this is case number DEV 17-110. This is a special use permit for Elite Landscaping and Design. There is a public hearing required for this. Mr. Armstrong is requesting a special use permit for a landscaping and lawn care business. He currently operates this business. He was unaware that he needed a special use permit. Once he learned that he did, he came in and filled out the appropriate paperwork and has taken the appropriate steps. The Planning Commission has voted 7-0 to recommend approval of this case, subject to conditions which Mr. Armstrong is familiar with. He's here and will answer any questions
right.
that you may have. There is also a resolution
And a public hearing.
and a public
And
hearing.
we'll open up the public hearing. Anyone here to speak against this special use permit? Seeing none. Anyone in favor of this project?
Nobody's in favor of it, so we don't have to.
Yeah.
Does the applicant wish to speak? I mean, this is,
No, I can just sit there.
I would just, all right, we'll close that portion of public hearing.
I move to approve special use permit, case number DEV-17-110.
Second.
Voting.
Aye.
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 I do have a question back on the last conversation. Does the planning and zoning go into the depth that we just went into to discuss, so we don't run into these little situations later, you know, of his presentation?
They do. I mean, we have actually more, the presentation is much more during planning commission meetings. We show them all the maps and everything, and then they go into details of all the issues.
But you notice how it finally got resolved because the engineer was happy with the lesser standards, you know? So
Correct.
do we get into that?
That time, that wasn't
Oh, okay.
discussed.
I'm just so
It was
curious.
it was just going for the county standards.
Yeah.
and,
Okay.
We did not discuss that.
Okay.
All right. You got a resolution number?
2017.
Motion to approve resolution 2017-64.
A second.
Voting.
Aye.
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 Commissioners, this is case number DEV-17-114. It's a special use permit for Arbor Ridge Farm. This is a request for a renewal. They have been in operation for the last 10 years at least. They board horses, they provide horse riding lessons, those sorts of standard things. The Planning Commission voted 7-0 to recommend approval of this case, subject to conditions. I will note that I believe the applicants are requesting renewal of for 15 years. The Planning Commission recommended 10 years. The applicant is here. I'm sure will answer any questions you may have about that. There is a public hearing required and there is a resolution.
Okay. We'll open up the public hearing portion now.
Well, before you do that, what was the years on the one before?
10 years.
10 years, okay.
So 2007 was, and they've operated since 2001. So their first time around was 5 years
Right.
and then 10.
Thank you.
We'll open the portion of public hearing. Anyone opposed to this special use permit? Seeing none, anyone here to speak for this special use permit? Does the applicant wish to speak? Seeing none, we'll close this portion. Oh, the applicant wishes to speak?
I'm fine with 10 years if that's the county standard.
Well, we've given 15 before, because if they've been in business long enough, without any violations or anything.
I don't know, 10 years is a long time, I mean, 15 years is a long time.
Well,
Lots could change.
yeah, a lot can change, but it doesn't even have to last for 10 years. It could last 1 month. There's be some violations we're reconsidering, so,
Well, it's harder to do than you think.
well, maybe for
It
you,
would
Bob, not for
probably
me.
Well, I'll be honest with you, it'd probably be easier to go to the state and get it declared as an agritourism
Yeah.
thing, and you don't need any permit.
That's right. So what, do you have a figure that you prefer, so for the convenience of your office? That's all it's for, to me.
The first time we do 5 years because, you know, we want to see if there are any complaints or anything,
Yeah.
so we can take action. But other than that, that's the only problem. I mean, usually most of these business, we don't even hear from anybody. So otherwise, we'll put something in the staff report that says, you know, we received some complaints and we have some concerns. Otherwise, it's straightforward.
You know, it's just, you know, it just keeps changing. It could be for 100 years, you know?
And it could be, because then if you violate any of the conditions of the permit, then it can be pulled.
They can be pulled. So, and Bob did say it's a little harder, but it's not that much harder. So, so you're happy with it 10 years and we keep it going at 10? Because I don't want to see another 15 personally.
It's entirely up to the board. Even if
Yeah, I
it's 15
understand.
years, we don't have any problems.
Does Planning and Zoning Commission, you know, the guy that runs that, does he understand 10 is good?
10 is good, but 15, I'll be retired by then, so I don't have to worry about that.
So he don't care.
Well, we'll close this portion of public hearing.
I move to approve with 10 years.
Second?
Voting.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Resolution, motion to approve the resolution 2017-65.
Second.
Voting.
Aye.
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 Commissioners, this is case number DEV 17-117. This is a special use permit for Life Preschool. Life Preschool has been in operation for more than 5 years. Prior to Mrs. Meitler operating Life Preschool, the building was utilized as a church and a preschool, so it's been there for quite some time. Mrs. Meitler has been operating it, like I said, for the last 5 years. Currently, staff provides care for up to 37 school-aged children before and after school daycare before and after school. There are 14 children in preschool and 28 children in daycare at the facility. Mrs. Meitler has approached us and said that she may build a secondary building in order to accommodate state requirements. As you can imagine, this preschool is pretty heavily regulated by the state. The Planning Commission has recommended to approve that, including the potential building. Mrs. Meitler would need to get appropriate building permits and such, which she is aware of. She may not go forward with that. However, she is also asking for a period of 15 years. The Planning Commission recommended 10 years. They recommended 7-0 to approve this case. There is a public hearing required and a resolution.
Is this a new SUP?
No, she's renewing.
Very good.
Last time it was for 5 years, so she is asking for a 15-year
And it
renewal.
is on a state highway.
And it's on Chieftain Road, yes.
It's not going to impact county roads. We'll open up the portion of public hearing on the special use permit for Life Preschool. Anyone here opposed to the special use permit? Anyone here speaking for it? Does the applicant wish to speak?
Yes, please.
Come forward, please. State your name and address.
No, that means I have to vote against it.
I kind of like you. We'll see how it goes in the next few minutes.
It could change like the weather.
I know. So far, it's been entertaining,
Can
though.
you sing
Good morning,
Angus?
my name is Gretchen Meitler. My home of record is 22730 Hatchell Road in Tonganoxie, Kansas. I contacted Crystal because we were looking at different possibilities for increasing our numbers. We did start very small and have exploded over the last 5 years. A number of in-home daycares in our area have closed, and another commercial one has closed within the last 5 years, forcing me to meet the needs of my community. Is that what I had planned originally? Absolutely not. I work full-time for my husband. I'm retired from another job. I was doing this to provide a service not only for my own children, but for friends of mine in the community. First thing I wanted to bring up was the 10 to 15 years. The request for 15 years is based off of the fact that by the time 15 years would elapse, my oldest son would be old enough to assume the business from me if he so desired. By that time, I would also be within 2 years of drawing my military retirement and would have no desire to do childcare anymore personally. But it would afford somebody else, and hopefully my child, because he has an interest right now, believe it or not, at the young age of 7, in regards to the business. So that's my request there. Along with that 15 years, then we roll into the traffic impact fee. Traffic impact fee that is proposed to be assessed to my business at this time is just over $4,200. The reason I'm standing before you again, and I contacted Crystal yesterday, and with other research that I have done, resolution number 1991-34, the creation of the transportation impact fee on new development within unincorporated areas of Leavenworth County for the purpose of assuring adequate transportation system capacity.
I understand where you're going with this because you are on a state highway and
I'm on
we
a-
are never going to improve that with
Correct.
county funds.
And I'm not doing anything new at this point, but inside of my special use permit, you know, if we do add another building, then obviously we're gonna be required to go through all of the permitting, and I agree to that, and I understand that. But again, nothing is being requested from the state or the
Right.
county with what I have going on right now. So $4,200, could I pay it? Yes. Do I believe it's
Gonna benefit?
acceptable? No, I don't.
I don't either.
David? do you
Yeah,
have
while, I'll just say, while the business is located on a state highway, people will be traveling on county roads to get to the business. So that is why, even though it's on a highway, the fee is still collected.
I have more to add to that if I may.
You may.
Currently, I have 69 families. That includes my family and my children, along with all of my staff. For a total of 102 children that come to our establishment, 101, my mistake, at any given time. They're not all going to be there at the same time. They never are. Right now, my numbers today for lunch are 26. We'll pick up more kids after school. Out of 69 families, 28 of those families, to include myself, have to travel past our location either from their home or past our location to get to their place of employment, to college, or wherever they might be going. So over 46.6% of the people that come in and out of my driveway each day
Are going to use the roads anyway.
are using the roads anyways.
Which anthem do you sing? Halls of Montezuma, Anchors Away,
I'm a
Caissons?
Husker.
Caissons Go Rolling On?
I am the first female mascot in the history of Nebraska, University of Nebraska at Lincoln, 96, 97, so.
No, I was talking about military.
Oh, military, yes, Army.
Well, that qualifies. You were Air Force, I wouldn't even consider it because that's a country club. But, you know, I am currently paying for schools. My kids are long gone. I pay in Lansing schools, significant. One of the biggest taxpayers in Lansing. I don't even get to vote. I have no say-so. City of Leavenworth is now doing a storm sewer to make money to pay for the replacement of the storm sewers. We don't have storm sewers up where I live. Goes into the creek.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't have storm sewers. So I understand your plight, but that's been going on and increasing every year. So the entities can get the money in to do what they are supposed to do. When we talk about 182nd Street, because he's gone.
No,
You know?
we got one here.
Oh, we got one? Shoot.
Careful what you say.
Oh, yeah. Well.
You
but-
just wore one down. You ain't wore them all down.
Oh, God, dang it. Oh, 2 hours. I'm sorry, Lord. So you see where I'm coming from. We're always paying for something that we don't really get anything from, or we don't think we do, and I agree. I don't think I get much from anything anymore. I don't get police protection. I don't get fire protection. Never did get fire protection. Had the biggest fire in Leavenworth ever had. I'm proud of it. And didn't get any insurance money. So I see your plight, but you know, if we waive for you, somebody else is going to come in and have the same commitment. And I appreciate what you're doing for kids. That's the number one. Kids are number one compared to anything else in the world, kids. And at least we got clean drinking water compared to other nations. So I just want to let you know where I was coming from. I feel for that. I'm not going to volunteer to pay any of it, but I'm going to have to stay with my thoughts, which are everybody that has to pay it by rules and regulations needs to pay it. So just want to let you know that. Nothing personal.
No, that's fine.
You served your time.
I
Thank you.
appreciate your opinion.
I disagree. I
But
think
it's a
if you're on a
state- it's a
state
state highway and
this
current-
county is never going to upgrade that state highway or.
Well, we're getting our money back that we paid back when Harley Russell ran it through 2440. Is that the road you're on?
Well, she's south of Tonganoxie.
Oh, okay. We
The
didn't
county
improve-
coffers did help upgrade 2440 to Baser.
Yeah.
And I never understood that one either, but we did.
So, but
And even in section 10 of the implementation of the coordination strategy per 2440, on the next to last page of that, it talks about that impact fee, and also there states clearly new development. This is not new development. It's been there since 1999. It was built by a church. It was tax exempt at that time until the time that my husband bought it. We now pay taxes.
Were the, one of the fees were waived because it was a church? Were they?
Actually, I can answer the two questions. The applicant is saying that this is not a new development, but it's still a business in the county. We allow businesses in the county with special use permits because we're not rezoning it to commercial. If we rezone it to commercial, then they'll have to pay additional taxes for it. So this is a way to allow the people who live in the county to conduct their business at home. So that's why these fees are there. I mean, it's been there for a long time.
Since 1991.
Everybody has been paying it, and it's a policy that the county had. So if we are trying to change it, then I would recommend that we change the policy instead of just waiving the fees for anybody.
Comments, Commissioner?
And there have been fees waived in the past. The building sits to the front of the property, the back of the property, and the sides are all used for agricultural purposes. We're taxed at an other rate because of the fact that there's a business up front or a building, and then the ag in the back.
Right.
Well, she
So
could
I've
do
already,
Agritourism?
agritourism.
I know, I
and-
heard that, so it's,
And
there's notes.
teach the kids.
I am.
Every
We've-
day, they have a little session, maybe they change the chicken house, build chicken house, see.
We have raised chickens
There
with
you
the
go.
school agers. We do have
Yep.
gardens in the summertime, so
Very good. I don't have any more
We ready?
questions.
You have anything else?
Yeah, she got it. She's gonna change her opinion of me, but other than that.
That's all right.
no, I'm not. I just,
I was
you know.
I was Navy, so you gotta appreciate that, you know.
And in closing, if we do put up another building, because everywhere you look, the definition is very clear, and everything that I brought up, everything that was provided from planning and zoning, it's new development. It says nothing. You know, to me, and this is my opinion, and I have not sought legal counsel, but this is similar to the driveway tax and Mission.
You almost changed my vote right there by saying you didn't get legal counsel.
Well, because I wouldn't think, you know, and this is why so many smaller in-home daycares are going out of business, because they're required to have a special use permit. They already have to meet state, local, and fire marshal code. The county comes in, you have to pay the county to come in and do your survey every year. So, you know, I get the fees, I understand that, but
So,
Mr. Joseph, how many, just in the last 4 months, how many special use permits have we considered for daycares? I know there's at least one, maybe two.
This one,
Yeah, there was another one that was done a couple of months. Yeah, we have another one coming
So
up.
did we waive the fees for those?
We never waived the traffic impact fees
Traffic
because it's
impact.
been collected ever since we had special use permits.
Okay.
See, my favorite quote is always Miles Construction. If we hadn't allowed them to go out on their farm with a few trucks, it wouldn't be out on 2440 today. And that was an asset to the community.
yep.
Thank you, Lou.
Now, if they were to build an additional building or build onto this one, that they'd be required also to pay another traffic impact fee if they build a separate building?
No, this is one-time fee. It's applicable for, if she gets a special use permit for 15 years, then it's for 15 years.
Okay.
It's a one-time fee. But if they build another building, then they'll have to come in and renew the special use permit, revise the special use permit.
Wow. We're gonna be seeing a lot of you. Anything else, Commissioners? Are you ready to close? You have anything
And
else?
in closing, I mean, the last questions I had, and she provided the spreadsheet. Yes. That is, I guess my only other question, hopefully somebody sitting here can answer that, is the way they come up with that calculation, that is based off of $550,000 for every 1 mile of road, correct?
right, that's the resolution from 2002.
So, we have far less than 1 mile of road that we are using, or even have frontage to. I can't put in another, and this is gonna tie into a little later, I can't put in another
KDOT
entrance
would
or
not allow
exit.
you access, another access point.
That's not
I can
true.
assure you of that.
So, I mean, my hands are tied, and we're
I agree with you.
So 15 years, please, and leniency on the traffic impact fee based upon the number of people that travel up and down that road every day anyways, regardless if I'm there or not.
Thank you. Anyone else? And we'll close this portion of public hearing.
I'll move to approve case number DEV-17-117 for the special use permit for live preschool. Stay with the 10 years, and I know my evaluation has gone down, and stay with the impact fee.
Second.
Voting.
Aye.
Nay.
Aye.
I voted no because I disagree with the traffic impact fee on a state highway. For the record, I support the business. I think it's a great business for the community. A lot of people use it. It's a, you know, there's a need for it in our community. We're still having kids, so.
There is a resolution.
Resolution 217-66. Motion to approve.
Second?
Voting.
Aye.
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 All right. Are we ready for access management?
Oh, we have to. I gotta do this, I guess.
It was requested that Public Works present the access management policy that was approved in January to the Planning and Zoning Commission. So I went over the new access management policy compared to the previous one that was done in 2009. Went over the changes that were made, just kind of discussed why the changes were made, reasons for needing access control to our arterials and collectors in the county. The Planning Commission, as Jeff in his report outlined, had three concerns. They were concerned with the driveway spacing. Item number 5, they're concerned with the language. They thought the language was vague. And they suggested collaboration with cities in the county.
Has planning and zoning looked over, and everybody's extremely happy with what we're coming up with?
No, actually, they had 3 concerns, and that's what David just read.
Right.
They were concerned about the quarter-mile spacing between the driveways. They wanted the language on item 5 to be revised to make it clear. And then they wanted us to work with the cities to come up with a different access management within the urban growth boundary areas.
With the cities, in the 3-mile radius of the cities?
Yeah, urban growth
That's the only
areas, yes.
part to see, yeah, okay. And I do agree with that.
Well, the issue with that is city lots are typically 100 foot or less of road frontage, where we're dealing with 200 or more feet of road frontage, so city driveway spacing would not work with our size of lots.
Yes, but any plat that's within the 3 miles of the city is going to be, the city's going to be involved with recommendations, aren't they?
Yeah, it gets sent to them for review, correct? Yes.
Yeah.
I think we're working right now with the cities to come up with agreements so that they maintain, that they will oversee the construction and development within that UGA area. I think when that happens, then this particular resolution would not even apply to the UGA. They would then, their regulations would apply in that area.
Okay.
Which is, I think, probably more appropriate since it is their urban growth area. Just for reference for the board, the items 3, 4, and 5 in Resolution 2017-1, that's what was added at the first of the year. That was what was changed, and that's what was reviewed by the Planning Commission and what has led to some discussion and I think maybe some confusion as you read through there. They say that the language on number 5 needs to be cleaned up. And we've had internal discussions about this as well. We've also had some feedback about item number 3, which is limiting driveways to 1 entrance per quarter mile of frontage road on collector and arterial streets. And I think that, and David, you can correct me on this, but I think what the discussion was on there, that actually I think language needed to be included in there that cleared it up. Because I think the intent of that is that if it's 1 parcel, then they have 1 access point per quarter mile versus if there are several parcels in there, you have to allow those parcels to have access. It was like
Right, if there's existing buildable lots, every lot is guaranteed at least, everybody gets at least 1 entrance. You can't deny.
But if it's not a buildable lot, do they still get that driveway entrance?
Yeah, if it's buildable today.
No, I say if it's not a buildable lot.
Well, I'm not sure why it would not.
I mean,
If it were a landlocked parcel.
like a landlocked parcel, yeah.
Well, they would have no road frontage then if it was
Yeah.
landlocked.
I did notice.
So if you had, let's just say 80-acre tract, quarter by half, you'd have 1 access. Is that correct? So well, but then you could get an additional field access if you have greater than 10 acres.
So if you're not subdividing.
Not
you're just-
subdividing, say you got an 80-acre tract and you've got it fenced and cross-fenced, you got farm ground here, you got a hay field here, you're gonna only allow 1 access.
Well, our policy, number 2, agricultural entrances will be granted for valid agricultural uses on parcels greater than 10 acres.
Okay. That's what
So that would fall under number 2.
Okay, so you would grant a couple field entrances on an 80-acre tract?
I know I've got more than,
Well, yeah, I mean, because you usually got your farm split
Right.
into different,
my farm is split. And,
most people got crop ground, hay
Right.
ground, pasture and all that.
And one of the things that we had discussed, that the regulations inside the 3 miles for the UGAs, obviously, once the agreements are in place, the cities would have the ability to control that. They don't right now, obviously, we don't have those agreements, we're working on them. That there probably should be different standards within that urban growth area versus out in the open areas of the county where development won't be occurring for probably several years or whatever, but it's hard to apply this policy countywide right now because we go right up against city limits with this. So I can see the confusion, and we're trying to work through it. But we wanted to bring it back and have a little more discussion on it after the Planning and Zoning Commission reviewed it. It's in place right now. If no action is taken today, it will remain in place. So the discussion really then becomes, is this board supportive of the quarter-mile driveway spacing requirement on arterial and collector roads? And again, keeping in mind that the ag entrances aren't impacted by that specifically. So does the board support that limitation?
So this will come back to us at times because the city's gonna come and say,
Well, once we have the agreements with the cities, then their rules will apply within their 3 mile area if we get them in place. If they don't, then this stays in place.
but that's not in here giving the cities.
Not yet, because
No.
we do not have any agreements with the
Yeah.
cities currently. So I'm trying to move it along with, I'd like to just look at like number 3. Does this board support the limitation of driveway entrances per every quarter mile for frontage road on a collector or arterial street?
I'll move that be approved.
Well, it's already been approved,
Okay.
it's already part of it. So I just want to go through it. Is the board okay with that? If so, we'll move
Yep.
to number 4.
I
I'm
am.
not, but
I'm not either.
Okay, there's two.
So is there language then that we can address that by? Because we
I just
obviously
think a
don't
quarter
want to
mile
leave it wide.
is
A
just,
quarter miles to me is too far. I mean,
yeah, because if,
in fact, I'm not sure that I'm not in violation.
you're already in violation. You'll be out today to pull out your tubes, huh?
Yeah.
So,
Well, this is for new development, but.
I know,
so then-
I know.
So then let's say, and David can help explain this. If a subdivision came in, like, Mark's still here, Mr. Brewer subdivision, if it came in and had, where they were putting these lots on a collector or arterial street, and they wanted more than one driveway, if there were 2 lots, they would get 2 driveways if that plat was approved. Is that correct?
Depending on how much road coverage.
Well, again, as long as they've met the other guidelines. If it was less than a quarter of a mile and we allowed the lot split to happen, then we have to allow the lot to have access.
That would be, well, if he didn't have more than a quarter mile frontage, then my recommendation would be to deny.
And I think that's where the problem is. That's where
Well,
we're at with this. And I think
I'm gonna
that's-
go out on a limb here. I think I've probably put in more driveways than everybody in this room. I did it for 34 years. Driveways need to go where sight distance is the best. I mean, the spacing requirements, I understand the spacing requirements, but I understand giving a variance, if you have to allow for more sight distance, you don't meet the spacing requirements. I think a lot of this should be on a case-by-case basis. But a quarter mile, like you said, if you got 80 acres and you got 1320 frontage, you got one entrance right in the middle to your driveway to your home, then you know.
That's exactly my situation.
And then,
right now.
okay, so then the neighbor buys the tract of ground, well, you gotta have a quarter mile spacing.
Yeah.
I just think it's,
Well, case by case, it opens up a door that we gotta hire more lawyers, okay? So what is your recommendation?
The issue is with driveways is every driveway is an accident point.
Oh, yeah.
So on our major roads, the arterials and collectors, you brought up earlier this week a road here in town about a driveway popping up here, a driveway popping up there.
Right.
right.
We need to control how often we're getting driveways. Driveways are accident points, they're gonna slow traffic down, they increase your travel time getting from point A to point B. So if we continue to allow development to occur like we allow, basically stripping off road frontage on these roads, all we're doing is increasing accident points and slowing traffic down. So that's why we need to get something like this.
Yeah, and I agree. But I think it needs to go beyond the access management point. I mean, like, we collect the same riff and tiff on a blacktop road as we do a gravel road.
So
We don't
what's your-
have
what's your
no
recommendation?
incentives to stay on the blacktop road and say cut a road in, or do a shared driveway, or just cut one road in and sell 4 or 5 lots on that. We don't offer,
Out there
we don't
on
encourage, I guess we
70/30,
encourage
that's
it.
what-
Right.
That's what they proposed.
Well, I think that's kind of what this policy is encouraging, is that if you're going to have that access point off of a paved road, that you have one feeder street that then feeds your lots internal to that area. That's what we're trying to encourage. Maybe that's not what we're communicating, but that's really what's trying to be encouraged here, is that if you're on a collector or arterial, it should be a subdivision that's being created with an interior street that services those lots versus having, and you're gonna see it on 147th, we've already approved it, where as we're improving that road, and now 5-acre lots are being split off on that, so that
Okay.
future development is now blocked from anything internal to that lot to have access to our road. And that's what we're trying to avoid on the streets that we're putting significant investment into improving. Then we won't be able to allow development because they're blocked by all the lots that are coming off the front. And that's what this is for, but again, it may not be what's being accomplished, or maybe we've got to wait.
What's your recommendation on this policy? You wanna-
Still discussing yet. I don't know.
Okay.
Um,
Let me know when you're done.
All right. So how difficult is it to get approved? Say somebody buys, a 40-acre tract, and they cut a road in, and they do a cul-de-sac and all that, and what would be the minimum lot size?
Either 2.5 or 5 right now, most of the
Okay,
time.
could you get a 2.5 approved without, could you get 2.5 approved and not have to have a notification of all the property owners within 1,000 feet?
Yeah, for subdividing, there is no public notice requirement. It's only
Okay.
for rezoning.
So
or
somebody
special
could
use.
do that, say cut a road in and do 2.5-acre tract
Correct.
and be on septic,
Yes.
all engineered systems, I'm sure.
Well,
And-
2.5 acres, you can have a standard system.
Okay. So we're talking 40, it'd be 600. Say, if it's a quarter mile deep, what would it cost to put in a quarter mile of road with a cul-de-sac, I guess, or 1,000 feet with a cul-de-sac?
You could figure $100 bucks a foot, you're at what, 100,000?
So you're at $100,000 or more, $130,000. Is that profitable? I guess, my question.
Well, it's been.
What can you get out of a 2.5-acre tract?
It's been
Depends on where you're
profitable.
Yeah,
Been profitable in the past. And having grown up watching North Kansas City develop, and probably nobody here watched North Kansas City develop, did they? But you have all these farmettes. And all of a sudden now, they have to be bought up, the farmettes, because they're outdated. And so to me, you know, we got still designated roads that have never been opened. If you got an 80 or a 40, you designate a cul-de-sac down that road for the guy that in the future wants to develop it. You don't get that 100, I think it was the end of 147th where I took a tour with the tour guide down in Baser. And it was very, you know, now they're blocked out because you got land behind, but you got a house here and a house here and a house here. So maybe that's something that planning needs to be looking at, or the county. Every plot of ground has a designated road that in the future, somebody buys that, whether it's Joe Blow or Fred Smith, and now he wants to develop it. He says, I want to develop this. And you say, fine, you can develop it, but that cul-de-sac's gonna go in there. And then you've already got it set for the 2.5 or 5 acres or what it is. Cul-de-sac, believe it or not, is a roundabout. I didn't mean to bring that up.
I knew we'd get there today.
Yeah.
I knew it'd happen.
Oh, yeah.
But I think that's what Mr. Lawfrey and Mr. Lujan and Mr. Joseph are talking about, is working with the cities.
Right, but also talking about limiting that, what you just said, which is blocking future development by allowing these lots to come in and develop every 250, 300 feet. You block the back side of that development or anything a mile away. I think the one you're referring to, maybe the High Point Downs, trying to come through, or if you said it's at the end, it would be the Baser Town Center, where on the back side of that, there's lots, so you never get through to connect to 147th Street
Right.
from the other side without going in and condemning someone's
Right.
house, which is problematic, obviously. But that's why I think it's so important that we get agreements in place
Right. I
with
do
the
too.
cities and
Yeah.
allow them to control it. So, because what you're talking about is not just countywide zoning, but countywide planning that this.
Transportation network plan.
Right, so, which, within the 3-mile area, I think is very important for the cities to do, especially with the growth that we're experiencing right now in some of the localities. But the question is that as important as we move outside of that 3-mile area? Is that as important closer to the county line with Jefferson County or over by Easton? Is this restriction as important when we get out there? And that's what the policy is about, and that's what the board is discussing. And maybe today we can't resolve this. Maybe we need a work session where we bring in the maps and show you the problem
I would
happens.
support a work session.
So I would like to do that, I think, and bring in the maps and show you what we're trying to prevent. And maybe that helps then explain why the decision was, why this is put in place. And then maybe we can do some kind of an approach where if you're within 3 miles, this is a hard and fast rule. Outside the 3 miles, there's a different application, and we can work on something like that.
And we can bring up different scenarios that, what we need to do with those as well.
And I think we have some good examples just in the last year of instances where this has been a challenge, and instances where this should have been enforced 4 years ago because now we have a problem. And I'm using 147th because I drive 147th, and I know we're getting ready to do that improvement. And I saw the plat that came in 4 months ago, 5 months ago probably, splitting off these lots that it's fine now, nothing's out there. But once that road's improved, I guarantee you, and the backside of Falcon Lakes is starting to develop, so across the road's gonna develop, well, you can't access anything. They've already blocked it off, and I think that's a problem that we're trying to avoid.
And then we have another issue of mostly people have 80 acres, they want to give 5 acres to their kid, and then they come in and they want to split 5 acres, and if we have, I think this restriction wouldn't allow them to do that. So that's something that we have to look at as well.
Right.
We'll schedule a work session where we have a little more time.
So what do you want us to do with this and just let it?
It's fine right now.
Okay.
That's what's in place. We'll schedule a work session within.
We can just leave it as is.
Yeah, So we'll schedule a work session within the next month here. We'll try to get something scheduled where we can come in and we'll find an agenda that works. And
Okay.
we'll bring in some maps and show you again the problem that it creates without this kind of restriction, and an example of where this
That's what I'd like
restriction
to
has
see, is
caused.
the problem that it's causing by not having this done.
Yeah, we'll bring some maps in so we can present those. And the projector's broke right now anyway, so it wouldn't have worked today, so.
Mr. Herring, you have any comments on this? Or Mr. Brewer afterwards, means we've.
I've been waiting for this.
2.5
Joe
hours.
Wait,
Herring
let me
survey.
take my hearing aids out.
315 North Fifth Street. Appreciate the ability to come up here and comment. My concerns, I did ask for a work session after the Planning Commission meeting due to the holiday schedule. It was not able to get there. This work session should have happened in March of last year. It didn't. We've been under this regulation for almost a year now. It's too broad, it's overreaching. I could go into a lot more detail, but there's really no need to. I asked the Planning Commission at the meeting to make a motion to rescind Resolution 2017-01, and they voted against support of it, and I'm asking you guys, rescind it, go back to the 2009 policy. I agree that access management needs to happen. It needs to be in place, but not this policy. And it's going to take some time to get everybody to agree to a policy that works for the county, that works for the developers, and the most important, 2018 is going to be the year of the taxpayer. It works for the taxpayer. Right now, you put a restriction on people's property without them even knowing that affects their value. So I'm asking you to rescind it. Let's go back to the 2009. Let's get the work session set in place. Let's develop a plan that works for everybody. And let's get it done with the cities. If you want to do 2.5 acres, most 2.5 acres are already in that 3-mile radius of.
I'd rather see 2.5 acres all over the county myself.
You're not putting a cul-de-sac on 5 acres on 40-acre lot and making money. It's just not financially doable. But anyway, that's what I'm asking the board. Rescind the resolution, reenact 2009 policy, and then let's go forward and get a policy that actually works.
Well, there's probably more to just in cutting the road in. You're gonna have to bring in the water line, you're gonna have to put in the fire plugs.
Oh, there's a lot of.
Yeah.
Clean outs.
Yeah, and then that's the end of the water line, then you gotta have to clean, no, you have to put in a fire hydrant
Well,
probably.
Only if
I don't
there's
know.
water service.
Well, certain,
You go on 2.5 acres, you're probably gonna put fire hydrants in. They're not gonna allow that.
but the problem is gonna be the size of the water line.
Mhm.
So you gotta get the water, rural water districts on board,
I think,
which we're dealing with one that's.
right, it may not be that easy.
The planning-
We did discuss this in February, I think, And at the time, the direction was to move it through planning and zoning to see if, because they had a better avenue of maybe reviewing and having some public hearing discussion. So it went to them, and really it's back here for it needs fixed. I mean, that's what, basically their finding is, they think it needs to be fixed or adjusted. And so we'll prepare the material and bring it back forward.
How soon could we get this work session?
We'll schedule it in December. It's going to be a little, we'll have to work around, obviously, the holiday, but we'll
Sooner
get
the
it.
better.
Yeah,
Like Mark said, it was discussed at the board in February. It went to planning and zoning pushed to planning and zoning to discuss it. It took until last month, or the first of this month, November, to get that to planning commission, and they voted against it. So I'm asking for it to rescind it, and let's go back to 2009, start from scratch, and let's go from there and get a policy that works. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Brewer?
Yeah, I just want to reiterate Mr. Herring's comments. But there are a couple of situations, I agree we need more access management or more restriction. Every day I drive by Don Budd's Addition on Evans Road, and that's too many access points. I agree. I think they're every 200 feet there. But there has to be a balance that works with the rate of development, what people want to choose, how they want to use their property. And there's a lot of collector roads out there that we restrict to one access per quarter mile that may be a gravel road at this point in time, but it's identified as a collector. Or, lumping collectors and arterials together might be an issue. There's different classifications, like we don't have different access spacing. So one of the bigger issues I had was, where did the quarter mile even come from? Is that a AASHTO standard? Is that a state highway standard? Did we look at the 2440 corridor study? There's a lot of good recommendations about how access is restricted there on adjacent roads to 2440. We brought up talking to the surrounding cities and incorporating, what their urban growth areas will look like. And the one thing that hasn't been touched on is I think it was item 5. It's the discretion that's allowed to the county engineer to determine where access is provided. So, and I'll bring it up again. The west subdivision of West Acres. Keep in mind, when this plat was submitted, the resolution for access management was in place. So this gentleman had less than a quarter mile of spacing here, and had access, if you read the access management policy, had access to the adjacent road. So the policy's in place. At the county engineer's discretion, he allowed an exception to the quarter mile spacing and provided access on Evans Road. So to me, that's way too much latitude for interpretation from one individual. So I think that needs to be revisited. If we're talking about access management in terms of public safety, then we either allow access points at these intervals, or with site distance or mathematical and engineering reasons why we allow access, or we don't. It's not, well, there's a ditch here and he can get another lot in here, and yeah, it kind of makes sense. That's pretty subjective. So, other things that haven't been brought up. But appreciate the time.
All right, thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? Mr. Rosenthal? Thanks for taking time out of your schedule to be here today.
Thank you. Steve Rosenthal, 22715 171st Street. As for being part of the Planning and Zoning Committee for as long as I've been in on these discussions longer than anybody in the room, except for maybe David. Have you been here as long as I have?
It seems like it's Steve.
Yeah, it seems like it, but otherwise, so it's been an ongoing thing for over 20 years that I've been on the Planning Commission, and access is a big thing. It really is. I think it needs to be. I think a quarter mile might be overreaching on that. I think a better thing to do is when you do divide a land with engineering site distance, I think it's probably more important than just the distance. But it's not going to be something you can go to and point to, well, it has to be this distance. Well, it has to be the site distance that I think is the the main issue on arterial roads and like that. You've got too many roads, like you say, out there where the traffic is coming, but is not there yet. So I say limiting to a quarter of a mile is kind of overdue, and I'll go back to the 80 acres where you want to deed off 5 acres to a child or someone else in the family, you wouldn't be able to do that. So I think that's a little far-reaching, but in maybe some places it's not far-reaching, and if your site access is not good. So I think we need to go to that more than we need to really consider just how much distance it is. A driveway, one-person driveway, you're not talking about a lot of in and outs, except for each one of them adds, of course, to it. So I think that is one thing that probably needs to be looked at instead of distance, is site distance. Other things, I agree with the city, really needs to take control of that three-mile area.
I agree with that.
And I think, as far as I'm concerned, I'm a farm boy from way back when. If it's not big enough land to farm, it needs to be just enough for a house and a nice yard, and not 2.5 acres or 5 acre tracts.
Because then they find out,
yeah.
oh, I've got to mow 2.5 acres.
I know, and I hear that all the time. You know, I bought the land and now I want to sell it. So how come? I have just too much land to take care of. Well, you wanted that much land, but no, I really don't want that much land. But that's where the house is, and that. So, but to do that, they need to be where they can get to sewers and they can get to water and all the services that would go along with it. So I think that is probably something that really needs to look at. Basically, if you're in that 3-mile area, and I don't have any problem extending that 3-mile area, even if the city thinks in not too long a future they'll be able to service it to go with what the city does on something like that.
And I agree with you on that. If the city has a comprehensive plan that goes out beyond the 3 miles,
right,
I think it should be considered.
Yeah, I do. Other parts, I think common sense has to rule and not just figures and something like that.
And I think the site distance falls under common sense.
Yeah, it really does. And if there is not, the site distance isn't there and that, whatever you do, make it to where people can't slip through the cracks. I mean, it seems like they'll find a way to get around the rules and regs, whatever you do. So let's not make rules and regs that are just there to be broken. And let's make them to where they're hard and fast and people have to live with it, but can live with it.
A hardened rule is only for you at that time, Steve.
Yeah.
There are no hardened rules.
While I'm up here, and nothing to do with this, but yeah, I know you were talking about special use permits and stuff like that, and I know the time frame came up as that limitation on years. And the limitation on years is what I've always understood, and Jeff, you can correct me, it's not only them, it's the neighborhood is going to change, and we're talking about development and everything. The business might not change, but everything around it might. That would affect the neighbor's ability to use the property and that's why there's time limits on it. And as the area grows, that if you got something that's way out, that's not a heavy impact, way out in the rural, probably not so much, but if you're gonna have something that's really close to where development can come and like that, it could possibly affect it down the road to where the neighbors might not look on it as favorable as the people who were there when there was no one there, like that.
Or the church and the daycare. I mean, it could become a church and church sold it off, became a bar.
Right.
See?
Yeah, right.
Church and daycare, they sort of
Right.
run together.
Well, and I'll go along with somebody wants a special use permit out in the county. They're doing it out in the county because of convenience. They can go in a commercial area and buy the land and build the building and have it there and not pay a traffic impact fee because we were there, but they'll pay in commercial taxes. There's not stopping. My business, I run it in a commercial area, and commercial taxes are being paid on that property. So even though I'm not paying maybe now pay a traffic impact fee on it, I'm still paying higher taxes, or in my case, rent, because of that, where I'm located at. And that's where, you know, let's face it, that's where we want our businesses and want our commercial in areas where can one handle the traffic and be in an area that, and I'm not picking on daycares, I was saying all businesses are that way. So anyway, that's another thing I had. You guys have any questions of me or anything?
No, I just, on a special use permit in a business, if it's out there and all of a sudden development encroaches upon it, and then all of a sudden they say, well, we don't like this, I got a problem with that, because they were there first.
Well, yeah, I agree with that,
You know,
too.
if they don't like it, they need to buy it out, and not let the county come in here and say, hey, we're not gonna renew your special use permit. You know, you were there 20 years, and now all of a sudden we don't want you there. But that's just my opinion. I'm a property rights guy. So.
But the neighbors.
I mean, you know, be like somebody coming out there and telling me they don't like your farm.
By the neighbor who owned the property at the time, maybe it was an 80-acre tract next door, and now this person has developed it. Well, are you saying he shouldn't develop it because it might affect the business that's next door?
I'm just saying you develop it in the business next door and you live with it. You know, because, or buy them out. That's the thing. I mean.
All right.
But
anyway.
Well, thanks for coming today.
It's not opinion of the Planning and Zoning Commission, so it's only my opinion only.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, don't leave yet, Steve.
Uh-oh. What else do we got? We decided to do anything on this? We just gonna, have our work session on it?
Yep.
Okay. All right.
Okay, you ready for reports?
Yes, I'm ready for reports.
Okay, God almighty.
Mr. Chairman, I have one more item.
Oh, one more item. Is it on there? I didn't see it on the agenda.
You probably saw this in your mailbox. It's that time of the year where we appreciate the Planning Commission by providing a dinner before the next Planning Commission meeting. And I would like to invite you all to attend the location.
Okay. Very good. All right, thank you.
Okay.
Now we're ready for reports.
Reports. Just for everybody's information, this is sort of two coma articles that have come back from the Attorney General, which were against the county, and the first one was, and the other one was against Mr. Smith and myself, and both of those have failed. I'm very concerned about our sheriff. I guess I could do a motion, do away with the county commission, because we don't have authority anymore. We're nobody, we're insignificant. And it bothers me that the sheriff, and I warned the county, and they warned the county, probably over a year ago, and I said at a meeting, I said, this is going to come back and bite us. I wasn't on the county commission. The sheriff had said, well, when it comes to budget, we can do really anything we want to do, and the county attorney said the same thing. Now, the sheriff has just hired one of the ladies we fired with a conflict of interest, and he has just hired her for $82,000 plus from funds in his budget. Now, we fired the lady who was one of the attorneys because we felt, at least that's what I felt the commission thought, how do we pay somebody to sue us? And she was in the process of suing us. So he goes out and hires a full-time a full-time attorney. I would like to do a motion to remove $82,000 from his potential transferable funds, and supposedly he has $200,000 plus. And next year's budget's going to be the same thing. I don't want any transferable funds at the end. If you got a position that isn't filled, then you need to come ask us. And the sheriff says, I don't have to ask you. I'll do whatever I want. The county attorney, he doesn't have to ask us. Register of Deeds doesn't. The clerk doesn't. The treasurer doesn't. They all have free rein to do anything they want to do, unless we test this. I went out and got the amount of money that the treasurer, on a part-time, in the year 2015, 16, and 17, the total came to, in 2017, it was 20,000 roughly. 2016, it was 25,000. 2015 was 10,000. So it came to about $56,000. But the sheriff feels that he needs a full-time attorney. Now, I don't know what's going on, and he supposedly is keeping it for internal alone. He must have a heck of a business over there I don't know about that he needs a full-time attorney. First of all, the clerk didn't know about it. Who does human resource work for? Works for the clerk. Well, I guess you couldn't.
Does the sheriff have his own human resource over there?
No, he's got his own records. Doesn't have his own human resource, I don't believe.
I don't know.
Does he deal with our human resource? Or is that an unknown? Could be an unknown.
I mean, all departments deal with our human resources as far as files and I mean, they all run through our payroll, so all forms have to go through our human resource department. As far as hiring, firing, and promotion and demotion, elected department heads have that authority via state statute.
Yeah. Well, you know, and we just sit here. I think we ought to, there shouldn't be any county commission. We're not setting their budget. We control their budget, and they're going to come back later and say, I need money to hire this. How many of you are aware that the county attorney just gave 5% to all the attorneys? You aware of that?
No, I wasn't.
Well, you shouldn't be. You're not important. I'm not important. County's not important. That is ridiculous. Does he not understand of what that does to the rest of the 400 employees? How much did they get this year? 2%? 1%?
Well, the county attorneys received, county's attorneys, employees and all employees received a 2% step increase this year. And then.
But I was just told the county attorney gave his attorneys a 5%.
An additional 5%.
So that's 7%.
Yeah, doesn't anybody understand what that does to the working bees? No, they don't. We don't understand that. You know, I consider myself very lucky, having come from where I came and where I'm at. So I can have a feeling for people that are working for a living and working hard for a living. I think really, how many elected employees are there? Does anybody know? Not employees, that's a common name, we wouldn't want to call them. I think there's 8.
Elected officials.
Elected officials
Yeah,
you're talking about.
elected officials. How many elected officials? I think there's 8. 3 up here, 3 downstairs, that's 6.
2 across the street.
2 across the street, that's 8. You know, with these coma violations, I'm getting very concerned. I think that I need a private attorney. And Becky, I hate to say this, and I hope you can take jest. May have died out with common sense, I don't know. But I need my own private secretary. You know, so 8 attorneys and private secretaries, 8 attorneys come to for $656,000, but that's not money. I mean, he's over there just kicking out $82,000. And we need private secretaries, that's another $256,000. We're still not talking about money because we wasted $750,000 earlier in the county's life, just for whatever the subject matter was, and the rest of the world doesn't need to know. So I think that I'm going to do a motion to draw $82,000 out of the sheriff's budget immediately. That's motion one, and then I'll follow with another motion.
The sheriff is an elected official. He answers to the taxpayers, I think.
I do too.
Well, you may think that, but we set the budget, didn't we?
In fact,
We did.
We answer to the public. I don't answer to you. You
Right,
don't
right,
answer to
right.
me.
We
That's
answered,
right.
but the sheriff is elected. The people voted him in.
Does that mean we can't draw funds out of his budget?
Once we've set his budget, I don't know.
I do. We can draw funds out of his budget. If nothing else, we'll draw out the $200,000 that he has in there that's transferable funds that he's going to do next month. But the rate he's going, he's already spent $82,000 of that.
For next year.
You know, and I had a beautiful quote here by Kelly,
By who?
General Kelly,
Oh, okay.
great man. A man's mind is stretched by a new idea or sensation and never shrinks back to its former dimension. So that means if you're going forward and you got good ideas and then all of a sudden you fall back, it says a man's mind should never fall back when you've got good intentions. If you don't have good intentions and you're just wanting everybody to glide along, I don't appreciate the sheriff at all, and I'm not going to evaluate his, ever what you want to call it. I'll leave that as a void so John can't fill in the word. I think he's been totally disrespectful. He's negligent, and you hit it on the head. The voter should resolve that problem in the next election. And I hate to do that from the pulpit, but by God, that is a direct, but I warned you, you and Clyde and Dennis, that this was going to come back and bite us, and it has come back and bitten us. And to hire an attorney who is suing the county, and I'm not interested in that, to get into that subject, Bob. That's been done. I'm interested in the fact that he hired the attorney we fired because she was suing us.
But you're forgetting one aspect of that suit, is this commission started it by putting her on admin leave.
Well, that's
and
true.
suing her.
But as I said, I didn't want to get into that, but she has since been fired because she's suing us. She's suing us, the other one's suing us, and another lady's suing us.
You
Three
can't-
people suing us,
you
and you expect us to pay them to sue me?
I don't expect you to do anything. I mean, your vote is your vote. What I expect is, I think the sheriff deserves to be talked about in a professional way. He is a professional, and as we all are, and he has the right, whether you like it or not. I've argued that point with the treasurer downstairs over the years, and John's written several articles that says that the Commissioner Holland and Janice Van Paris has a contentious relationship. Well, yes, there is, because I would like to see things done more openly, transparent, as Doug used in his election campaign. The sheriff's been very transparent. He interviewed.
Transparent. Did he come over and say, hey, I'm going to hire the one lawyer that you fired?
He
Did he come over? He had no respect for us.
He did not have to.
Yes, he did.
I saw a lady sitting right here, planning and zoning. I don't even know who she is. But I'm assuming that, did Jeff hire a new planner?
Crystal, she's
Yes,
been here a long
yeah.
time.
No.
Crystal, I know Crystal.
Yeah, we did hire a new employee.
Oh,
But
the young lady sitting back
The
here.
young lady sitting in the back.
Yeah.
I didn't know her, wasn't
No,
introduced,
didn't.
didn't say they were hiring anybody. I never knew that. Did you know that?
Nope.
Don't need to know that.
So,
But I do need to know when somebody's hiring an attorney we have fired.
I
Don't tell
think
me to
we have
go.
the right, I mean,
The sheriff doesn't tell me to go to you-know-where, and I'm gonna do whatever I'm gonna do, and the county attorney doesn't tell me to go you-know-where, because I'm gonna do whatever I'm gonna do, and the treasurer, and the register of deeds, and the clerk are not gonna tell me, go you-know-where, and I'm not gonna be involved. See, you're lucky, you had another 2 years. I don't have another 2 years, and I don't appreciate a sheriff not coming to me privately, say, hey, Louis, he knows me, I know him, I'm gonna hire this attorney, and I hope you don't get upset, but I know you are, because she's suing us. Now, that's pretty big.
he didn't come to me and tell
Yep.
me either.
Well, okay, but you don't consider it disrespect, I do. And I see that what the,
I don't see how it's disrespect.
Oh,
I mean,
God.
I just pointed out an instance with planning and zoning. Is that disrespect?
Well-
No, he's doing his job.
no, but he hasn't told us to go.
Sarah Schaefer come on board. She
But-
come up here and I thought, who's this? And
Accept it. You can go ahead and accept it. You guys just want to drift along in space, and that's all right with me. But the lawsuit's going to come along, and there she is sitting down there. And thank you, Andy. You've just given me something to do for the next election, and I'm going to do it massively. And I don't care if the county attorney is thinking about running for Lynn Jenkins' job, and he can't do anything for the county. Now, we may accept that, but I didn't learn that in the military, I'll guarantee you that. I backed the old man. So, you guys just do whatever you want to do, and we'll have a good time.
Commissioner Clint, like I said, the sheriff is elected. I don't think we have any control over this
You have control of your mind and your voice, and you can voice concern. Andrew, you have hired a lady we fired. Now, it seemed to be a pretty big deal when we were firing her, but it's not a big deal now that she's being rehired. So it doesn't matter, life will go on, I'll guarantee you that.
But I don't think we have any control over it.
Well, you take control, you find out how can we change the law to get it back to where we are in charge. We are in charge. Get it out of their hands. Either that or do away with the county, 3, 5, 7, I don't care how many county commissioners there are, do away with them. Because all they have is what to control?
the budget.
Nothing. Budget.
Budget.
Well, he's just violating the budget to me.
Well, I think there's.
Let's call him to task.
There's, I think, some kind of state statute that we have to fund the sheriff's law enforcement. Is that correct, David?
Commissioners, the elected officials that have been referenced here this morning are created by state statute. There's case law to the effect that if they are established by state statute and given specific statutory duties as part of the county commissioner's budget responsibilities, those departments have to be funded to an adequate level to discharge those duties. So you still have control over the county budget. I think the issue is, and there's been a conflict that stretches back as long as Kansas has been a county, is does the authority of a board of county commissioners with respect to a budget, how does that interface with the needs or perceived needs by an elected official as to what funds they need to operate? And you go through it every year in your budget process, and I would just caution that my experience has been every time the county commission challenges elected officials' responsibilities with respect to budgetary authority, you may find that the courts whittle that down ever farther. So Commissioner Klemp, I think, raises a good point that the county commission has the duty to manage the budget of the county. And that budget then implies the taxes that are collected by the county. The elected officials who are created by statute have certain statutory duties that they are required to discharge. And county commission has to fund that. As to whether that is accurate, I think that is up to the electorate, because the,
Well, when they discharge someone, they still are supposed to, they don't always do, but they are supposed to have some kind of cause or, some reasoning, not just discharge them for no reason.
county elected officials are generally supposed to follow the personnel policies of the county.
Exactly.
But they also, that rule, if it were a rule, admonition is superseded by their statutory duty to discharge the duties they've been, or statutory authority to discharge the duties they've been given. So I would just suggest to you, there's no, unless the legislature wants to completely revamp how county government is structured, there's no hard and fast rule. But you have your budgetary authority and responsibilities, because those elected officials can't levy taxes. You are the ones who have to do that.
So you're telling me that we could actually take $82,000 out of his budget today?
I would suggest to you that if his budget has been set this year, absent a showing that $82,000 is not needed either now or in the transfer for next year, I would I would urge caution on that. Now,
I would urge not doing it.
I think what Commissioner Klemp is arguing is that should the sheriff have at least made some informational presentation to the board, and evidently that did not occur.
Not evidently, it didn't occur. That's the problem with, and I love David, with attorneys though. Everything has to be politically correct, and that's what's wrong with the world today. We're trying to be politically correct and not correct the problems that are there. Just look at, you say what the courts do. Look what the courts are doing to the state of Kansas on education. And we're one of the top funded states in the goddamn nation on funding education. Now, I look at some of the people that lived out in the county that used to go to a small school district out there, and one of them owns banks today. And I don't know how he ever got qualified, because he went to a country school, School is where you're given education by a person that loves to educate you, like Minnie Mae Mayer. Who's Minnie Mae Mayer? Well, God, I don't know. She must have had 1,000 kids, and she knew every one of their names. They don't know their names today, unless they've been a football hero or something, maybe in ROTC. But these teachers, when I went to school, they knew you. You invited them 20 years later to a class reunion, they knew you. They knew that, Louis, you didn't get to grade your sister, God. So, but I just think the transferable funds, when it comes around next month, and you're going to say, yeah, we got to hide that money. And that's what it is. It's hidden money. And if you don't understand that, and it's time to cease that. That way people have to come to you and say, I want to fill that employee that I said I had a vacancy. Well, then give a good presentation of why you need to fill that, because it's been running anyway. Not I'm going to hire because I think I need it. God, I got a lot of needs that don't get fulfilled. So I just think that hopefully, and you're not wanting to do the 82,000, hopefully, and he'll be back over here now before, and that's like I warned my family, and heck, some of my boys are real good friends to the dedication. I'm a friend of Larry, I knew his son, his brother, and most of you people never did know his brother, but that's all right. I worked with him on many things. But I told my kids, I said, you got to watch it now, especially you, Nancy, you drive fast, because people are going to be looking for you. And that's the way that, to me, the system operates, because I'm going after his position. I'm going after the county attorney. I've lost all feelings for him. And it's a shame that in a small community that we can't have a little forwardness to say, hey, I'd like to look at hiring a attorney. Hiring a attorney, not the attorney. And that doesn't bother you, but that's all right. Doesn't bother you, that's all right.
Like I said, I just respect elected officials.
Well,
I'd respect
I used to respect them. Now you
Disrespect them?
No, I said I respect
Oh,
the,
I thought
the
you said
authority of.
disrespect.
No, Commissioner, get that hearing aid back in.
I love respecting.
I mean, I just don't want to get into the habit of trying to micromanage an elected official
Okay.
that was
We can't.
voted by the
We
public.
can't.
That's what I'm saying. We
Yeah,
can't
we
do it.
can't. Okay, God, we can't. But I can remember conversations before I assumed office, that there wasn't respect by a lot of people talking about a lot of commissioners.
Yeah.
See, so we don't want to go there because you got to have.
But I mean, the people voted these people into their positions, and I think we're very limited on what we can do. Or Mr. Matthews.
Just a couple of questions.
All right, you can come forward so everybody can hear you.
John Matthews, Baser. I have a question first. Because this attorney was rehired, does that stop her lawsuit?
We don't know that.
Because she's no longer laid off?
I don't know that either.
No, it didn't stop her lawsuit.
And I had just on your issue, Commissioner Holland, I see a big difference between hiring whoever that was than the sheriff hiring an attorney whom he would have had to have known that did not come with a clean slate, for lack of a better term. And so why would he not have asked for, can I hire this attorney that has this cloud hanging over her pretty soon?
So to follow up with your question, we ought to say the fact that he did not come forward and say, because he knows, why didn't he come forward and say, I want to hire this person? And this is the reason why. But he wouldn't have told the right reason why anyway. He would come up with something politically correct. But I think she's a good attorney, and she came from Wyandotte County, and Wyandotte County, they have good attorneys down there, you know. But I think it's, the point that you mentioned is a good point. But that's good. We'll keep her around, and I think she ought to be, I think the sheriff should have a letter sent to him asking him if she's going to be hired, that she resign, or she remove her lawsuit against the county. Now, does anybody have a problem with that?
I would agree with that.
Is that a problem with the county administrator?
Well, I think you're referring to a lawsuit that, and an employee who has legal representation.
Okay, I don't care.
I think,
she can still withdraw it. She got that power.
I think our county counselor would have to be the one to contact her attorney and make that request, but it would be a request only.
Yeah, be a request. Well, I know it's a request only, you know. That's what always gets me, you know. When my kids come up with something, or some of my employees, I get up and I walk around in a circle. And that means this isn't my first time around the block. Who doesn't understand? We always want to explain. I don't want to explain. But do you gentlemen have a problem with our county counselor asking her to withdraw, or her attorney, and we got to go through the attorney, see, to ask her attorney to ask her if she is willing to drop her lawsuit?
I have no problem with that.
How about our county counselor? Does he have a problem with that?
Commissioners, I can contact the legal representative, Ms. Hill, whatever the board wishes to have me forward to him.
Do you want to have some input, Robert?
No, I don't want to, I don't think we have the authority, nor, like I said, the sheriff is an elected official like we are, and he has the power.
We're not talking about the
hiring
sheriff.
and firing.
Yeah, Bob, we're not talking about the sheriff.
But
Stretch your mind, and don't let it shrink
Are we
back.
going to drop the lawsuit that we have against them?
I don't consider that a lawsuit against them. I consider that, are the contracts legal? And the courts just sit there going back and forth, drifting in their la-la land, because they don't want to take, they took it on the 2 comas, but that was the Attorney General. Why doesn't the courts, my God, don't they think this is important? I'll guarantee you, I was talking to a guy the other night down at Young Trump's gathering with Chris Kobach, and he was telling me how humorous this is in the legal industry. I don't know. We're the oldest city in the territory in the state, and we just come up with all this bovine. So, is it a consensus that David approach?
It's not a consensus.
Well, is there
Not
two?
on my part.
Okay, is there 2 opinions? To have David contact her attorney, to contact her, and maybe check with whomever that she needs to check with.
That she's employed by the county again.
That she's employed, and it.
Ask, I mean, it's just a question.
And then we need to go to Dedeke. We don't need just to go to her and ask him for his reasoning, because he's going to have to come up with something good, because there's going to be some financial money spent on this deal, because he deserves to go. That's disrespect to the county, to the taxpayer, to anybody else. That's disrespect to his parents. Hire somebody that's suing you. That'd be like me going out and hiring a manager that's suing me. So, where are we at? Is Dave going to approach somebody, or is we going to be?
Does he need a motion?
I don't know. Can you go on a consensus of 2?
Members of this commission, I have contact with the sheriff on an ongoing basis. I would defer to whatever the board wishes me to communicate to the sheriff, but I do still have communications with the sheriff on an ongoing basis. I would state, Ms., the person in question does have legal representation, and I need to respect that.
That's correct.
It does not preclude contact, but it needs to go through the proper channel in the interest of protecting the county.
Okay.
Is her lawyer the appropriate channel, or is the sheriff? Because you know you're not going to get anything from the sheriff.
I think the most appropriate, I could contact both. I think at this time, I'd probably wish to at least apprise her legal representative of the situation and see what their thought was. And Commissioner, I understand your frustration, but I've got to look out for the interest.
Oh, I understand that. You're saying I'm not looking out for it?
I think you are. I'm looking at it from a legal perspective. I think you're looking at it as a policy perspective, and that's what you're chosen to do, and you're doing it. I'm trying to protect the county from any action that could be harmful to the interests of the county.
You know, I could personally sue the sheriff, couldn't I? Yeah, I could sue him for some kind of, I could get an attorney to come up with something that says I can sue him for whatever, for hiring a conflict of interest person, and then she could sue me, and then I could sue her, but she can't even get her coma papers filed properly. In going through those, I saw numerous mistakes by an attorney. I'll tell you, going through Naval Legal School taught me one thing, and my old man in the Navy taught me something. You better read what you're writing down, because she had numerous errors. Typing in somebody's name and them not signing it, that's an error, David. It's a major error. So are we asking him to contact the attorney and to contact Mr. Dedeke and report back to us with the answer? Is that what we're doing, or we're doing?
I would be comfortable with that.
Okay, we got 2 comfortables.
Is that a consensus, or you?
Well, it can't be a consensus, because we got an uncomfortable person over there, and I don't want to
Okay.
make him uncomfortable.
So are you willing to make a motion on
I'll
that?
move that David contact the attorney for the new hire lawyer for the sheriff and that he contact the sheriff, telling that, I don't know, what do you want to tell him? That we are a little bit upset, a little bit emotional, or we're not quite comfortable.
Gentlemen, there's already a motion on the floor, and that is to reduce the sheriff's transfer funding.
That was just a motion, there was no second, was there?
It died from a lack of a second.
Yeah.
Motion's off the floor then.
There you go.
Okay, so you have a motion.
Okay? That,
That was your second motion?
yeah.
I'll second it. Voting?
Aye?
Aye.
Gentlemen, I will contact a representative of the individual, initiate dialogue, and report back to you. If they don't wish to speak, I'm saying initiate dialogue, if they don't want to speak to me, that's the end of the issue.
Okay, that's fine.
But that's a report I want coming back.
And Commissioners, that's how I'll handle it. I will certainly be respectful, but my paramount interest is to protect the interests of the county.
Yeah.
That-
My primary interest is protecting the county and protecting the taxpayer and protecting our society that is going downhill.
I guess I want to make it clear that if the sheriff hired this person, I support that. This is the sheriff, he's an elected official. I just think that if this person's back to work, maybe they would get out of the lawsuit. So, anything else before us?
I don't think there's anything important.
Anything important? Well, we're gonna have to break for lunch if there is, so.
Oh, shoot.
Motion to adjourn?
So did moved.
Second, voting?
Aye.
Aye.